Okay, let's get started.
Just raise your glasses high. This one's sweet.
Hey, me.
Riley.
Oh, just when I think you can't shock me ever with how you say my name, because you said it in every variation known to humanity, and then you did that quick one like that.
Yours was a little short too.
I know. I feel.
That's like our bandwidth today.
Did you play off mine sort of being quick, and then you were like,
I did.
I'm going to do it even quicker.
I did.
Wow. There's some really interesting psychology to the decisions we make with even saying our names.
It's true.
And they're indicative, I think, of the quality. Right?
Yeah, like whenever we have a really good one at the start, it's a good omen.
Right, for sure. And then when we have the exact opposite, which is what that was, not yours, but mine, you know that you're in for possibly a bad episode of Turtle Time, right?
Yeah. Well, we were talking before that I try and be smart and not drink too many glasses of wine on Vanderpump night because we always have to record the next day. But last night I said, to hell with it.
Wow.
I want the Pinot Grigio.
Good. Did you say to hell with it out loud?
No, it was my internal monologue.
Wow.
And so now I'm tired, and it was a torrential downpour last night. We got a flash flood iPhone warning at like 2 a.m. It was the full Amber Alert sound that is like the bomb siren.
Yeah.
And so I was like tossing and turning that like my VW Rabbit was floating down the hill, and that I was going to face yet another disaster.
Yeah, it was wild here in Los Angeles the last 3 days. I mean, the
Crazy.
The LA River is like fully filled up with brown, beautiful water, and like a
We
bunch
could
of
surf it.
Yeah, I want to surf it. I was going to ask you. I brought surfboards. It's just been, I don't know, Los Angeles in the rain, especially that heavy of a rain, it never happens.
Yeah.
So it's kind of shocking. Like when I showed up here 2 days ago or whatever, it reminded me of the Sopranos season 1 finale when Tony comes to Vesuvio and it's like pouring rain. Do you remember that? And he needs this like seek shelter at Vesuvio.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of felt like that.
Before, doesn't it get burned? Is that a spoiler?
Oh, it's when he has his new restaurant that he
Okay,
loves so
after
much.
that.
Within the space of the entire first season, Vesuvio gets destroyed in the pilot, and then is already a new establishment by the finale.
Did you see on our Patreon that at one point we were talking about that we need to go to San Francisco and have our beatnik era?
Yes.
Someone told us a whole itinerary, and one of them was a restaurant called Vesuvio, and I was like, excuse me.
I loved it. And that was like the same episode where we were talking about a bunch of Sopranos shit as
Yeah.
well. So it was perfect. I would do exactly, whoever our Villa Rosa VIP who said that itinerary, I would do that exact day, like to a T.
Yeah.
Everything they said.
Let's go.
What was that? What's the bookstore?
City Lights.
City Lights, listen to a beat poet, and then do whatever. Like, I think there was a bar they said as well. Like, I would have that full, beautiful beat day.
Yeah, and then we could go get some clam chowder on the wharf or something.
That sounds so good. I haven't been to San Francisco in right before COVID was the last time I went.
Yeah, I think the last time I was there was 2017 or 18.
Do you like it?
It's fun. My sister went to college there and lived there for like a decade. So I used to go a lot in my youth, and I thought it was real cool.
Yeah.
Haight-Ashbury.
Oh, yeah.
Go to the Paul Frank store on Haight.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know exactly what I'm saying?
Of course. Try to drive down that curvy street. I love that, except I always get stuck on that curve and people go, beep, beep.
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing?
Then there's the Fairmont Hotel has that floating tiki bar.
Oh, yeah. One time I walked the full length of San Francisco just like in a day. And
How
I was
many
like,
miles is that?
I don't know. Like 8.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. It was very reasonable. I mean,
That's fun.
one time, not to brag, but one time I think I walked the entire length of like Manhattan one day, like from Harlem to
Oh, wow.
the World Trade Center.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like, it's not that wild. It takes like 4 hours.
Yeah. I know. I love the walkability. Gotta say.
Me too. So, me too. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, San Francisco, the beat poets and everything.
Yeah. So anyways.
I wanted to say something. Beats are sort of out. The beat poets.
Yeah.
I was
What's
wondering.
in?
Oh, new type of poetry. New stuff. Not beat poets, but I'm pretty tapped into poetry now.
Slam?
Slam is good, but I was just saying we could sort of be the new beat generation. And
Okay.
I knew that there was a reason why you and I are both wearing berets, but I didn't know it would be this. But I would love to start that new sort of wave of bringing back Allen Ginsberg and William S. Burroughs and who are the other beats? John Kerouac.
Yeah.
Jack Kerouac?
Jack.
Okay, yeah.
Are you saying that podcasters are the new beats?
That's exactly what I was saying.
Okay. Cool.
Well,
Well, I guess there's no way to escape talking about this Tom Sandoval New York Times Magazine article.
yeah, and you know I wanted to escape it, right?
What was it called? The Most Hated Man on Earth or something?
Yeah, it had two different titles because the New York Times does that where there's like a clickbait title and then there's a real title. And I think the real one was Tom Sandoval is the most hated man in America. And then the clickbait one was, is Tom Sandoval the most hated man in America?
Okay.
Or maybe vice versa.
Okay. I will say when I saw it initially, I was a little excited by seeing him do a prestige
Me too.
photo shoot and all of this. Like I was like, let's see the flip side of like, I feel like she got that version, Ariana got that version many times, which makes sense, of course.
Right.
But I was like kind of excited to see him get, I don't know, just like a prestige moment because he is at the center of the story.
Yes. Yeah. I was excited for the same reasons. I was like the New York Times. I'm
Yeah.
a subscriber.
Yeah.
I like that, they are covering this in a way. I don't, the timing of it was like after the 4th episode or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is happening now. And I also thought the same thing. I was like, I'm interested to hear that New York Times, what's that? Like aesthetic applied to Vanderpump Rules. And for the most part, the article was like telling us things that we know and trying to explain to the New York Times audience why Sandoval hits so hard.
Yeah.
Like a lot of it we know.
Yeah. I was just thinking the whole time how Lisa must have been fuming at how often they mentioned that the food at her restaurants is bad.
I couldn't believe it. I forgot about that. The reporter, whoever their name is, which it's a great article. Like they did a great job, great piece.
Yes.
But they said when I came in August, all of a sudden the prose changes and they go, when I came in August, the food at Sir was absolute dog shit. It's like the editor or whoever was just like, yeah, you can just say that. Say exactly how you feel. And yeah, Lisa must not have liked that.
Yeah, it's mentioned at least twice that the food is bad. Or it was like she describes the restaurants as mediocre at one point, like all of the Vanderpump restaurants. And then it was like, despite the food being absolutely terrible, there was a line around the block. And I was like, Lisa reading this is like going to sue.
Yeah, and it said something like, they wanted a show revolving around her mediocre restaurants. Like, that's not what Lisa said. That wasn't the premise. But
The pitch.
yeah, but
She's like, Alex Baskin, I have an idea for you.
yeah. But did you see that Sir already used a pull quote from it?
They did?
Yeah, they said Sir's food is absolute ... Like, just, you know what I mean? Removing terrible.
The sexy, unique restaurant is...
Right. The New York Times. I thought that was the way that I wish we knew who wrote that wonderful piece. That would help.
I think I have it up.
Whoever knows who that was, they get a lot of credit. But I like that it was just assumed, that as an aspect of the story that the Sir food is horrendous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Her name is Irina Alexander.
Irina Alexander, you did a great profile.
Yeah.
So I was reading it. I also was excited. And then all of a sudden it's like setting the scene in his house. And Tom Sandoval had hired he has a new assistant. So
Yes.
this is after the Anne era.
Yes.
And then he has a new, what do they call it? PR?
PR girly.
Yeah, I was like PR manager.
What was her name? Like Riley or something. It was the most like clearly a 23-year-old. Like it was spelled differently,
Right. Riley. Yeah, 23. She was in middle school. It said watching Vanderpump Rules. Anyway, the reporter says, I was happy to see this PR person, but all of a sudden Tom Sandoval makes this statement where he compares the impact of Sandoval to the impact of O.J. Simpson and George Floyd.
Yeah.
And then the reporter says, I knew I was going to have sort of a less hard time talking to Tom Sandoval when I heard him say that comment, and then his PR person didn't even bat an eye. Didn't look
She
up
was like
from
on
their
Instagram.
laptop. Yeah, it's like, and then that comment influences the rest of the piece because Bravo and Alex Baskin and all these production companies get wind that he said that, and they start to try to remove access to him for the rest of the piece. Yeah,
it's interesting that they come to his defense in that way. I mean, I understand why, especially with what happened on the season when they had to fire everyone for racial shit. So I understand why they would panic about that, but I was a little surprised that there aren't just like, let him, like, give him rope to hang himself a little bit of, like, that's not going to hurt the show necessarily. But that obviously was the biggest takeaway and headline that he then had to apologize for.
Right.
I will take accountability that I myself compared it to the OJ trial last week, which I think is the less problematic of the two.
Oh, wait, you did?
I did.
Because we talked about OJ, right? We talked about the white Bronco.
I was like, yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But, like, OJ makes more sense because he's a celebrity, and it was like a Hollywood story, and that had more to do with, like, sensational news, despite it being murder. But, like, obviously we sensationalize murder all the time. Yeah. To then bring in, like, the, like, Black Lives Matter movement into it, I think was ill thought out.
Yeah, me too. Of course. So yeah, I mean, yes, it was a horrible comparison to make. Yeah. Very insensitive. Very, I'd say, most importantly, very stupid. Ignorant and stupid.
I felt she kind of threw him a bone afterwards. She was like, she basically was like, I think what he was trying to say, like, she didn't run with it and, like, make a fool of him after he said that. She was like talking about, like, the, becoming a target of a nationwide talking point or whatever.
And the New York Times did not make that the central focus of the piece or of their promotion of the piece.
Right.
It's other outlets that are taking that quote and running with it to say that Tom Sandoval is a horrible person. So I there's nothing to say, like, in defense of him, except that, I'm not going to defend Tom Sandoval for what he said. It's insensitive, it's stupid, it's horrible. Tom Sandoval says stupid things almost every time he opens his mouth. This is to an egregious degree, but I think that there is a certain subsection of Bravo fans that would want him, like, fired for this or canceled for this. And I just think that that would be, I think, not. I don't think he should be fired from Vanderpump Rules for this comment, and I don't know how you feel about that.
No, I mean, I think it was, like, again, not the most articulate person. Yeah, I think he shouldn't speak on things that he has no, like, he was like, I'm not a pop culture scholar by any means, and then he went on to say this, and I was like, well, I wouldn't, like, bring George Floyd into a pop culture lens necessarily. Totally. Yeah. But the Danny Masterson comment, I thought, was not inaccurate. He said, I got more heat than Danny Masterson, who was a convicted rapist. And I'm like, that's true.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, on the internet, like, Danny Masterson hasn't gone through, like, a tenth of what, like, the public scrutiny.
Objectively true. That's it. Yeah, objectively true. I just think that people didn't care about Danny Masterson as much. Yeah,
and it's obviously a way darker crime.
Yeah.
Like, Tom's is not a crime.
Right.
But, like, it's more fun to shit on someone for something a little bit more frivolous, and you can have fun with it. Whereas when there's actual, like, victims and it's like a conviction, it's like, well, that's not fun. That's very sad.
I think Tom Sandoval, exactly. That's exactly right. It's not. It wasn't at all fun to take part in a Danny Masterson takedown. It's like, oh, this is awful and horrible and despicable, and no one wants to even think about it anymore.
Yeah.
But with him, I do think that Tom Sandoval lost sight of there is a 10 to 20% of a tongue-in-cheekness about the revulsion to Tom Sandoval, right? He's more like a
love to hate him
or like a piñata that you absolutely hate, that you want to destroy, but it's not really about him, even though it did get very personal for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he received death threats or people told him to, kill himself. I'm sure that happened. But I think that there was a little more playfulness to the whole Sandoval thing, even in terms of how we talked about it. It's like I was like, my estimation of this person plummeted, and I never thought this would happen. But I was never taking it to a personal degree, and you weren't either. Of like, this man needs to go to
that's the thing.
jail.
It's like, how much did you respect him in the first place? That, like, like the general public, not you
I
specifically.
did. I respected the shit out of Tom Sandoval, so he does owe me a personal apology.
Well,
I'm
that's
still
the
waiting
thing.
for
It's
that.
like when he puts his foot in his mouth these days, we're like, yeah, did we love him for being well spoken
No.
and like
No.
smart? Like, no.
No, and if he would have said this in season 9, or whenever, if the timing worked out, and we didn't know that he was going to perpetuate such a horrendous act against Ariana, people would give him way more of the benefit of the doubt for this comment. I thought actually it would be harder to talk about this because I thought I was going to advocate for him staying on Vanderpump Rules. I thought that
You thought I was going to say fire him?
I don't know. I wasn't sure. It's very sensitive. It's very sensitive.
I mean, yeah, I'm curious what other people think. I saw, headlines and stuff. I felt I didn't dig in too deep on what people are saying. I'm sure it's pretty bad, but
it's bad.
It more stayed with me envisioning his women's section Zara suit that barely reaches his wrists that evokes the image of Heath Ledger's Joker.
Yes, great. Yeah,
that was amazing.
Is that the one that
I could picture it exactly?
Is that the one he's wearing in all his confessionals?
That's the thing. They described it as powder blue, and in this episode it was green.
Right. So it's like I think she must have seen a different confessional look, right? Because that's clearly green.
Yeah,
the one that he's wearing.
Maybe it will come later. They've done a few because I bet the one she saw comes later because it was in like December. So that's probably like the last of them,
Was there anything else notable about that profile besides his horrendous comments and then talking about Sir's dog shit food?
I thought it was interesting seeing that they revealed that Evolution Media is like in a bunker or like it's like in like a disheveled warehouse.
Yeah. Oh, right. And then they also talked about how they had to have like an all hands meeting with the cast at a certain point during the filming of the season because Ariana was not budging about filming scenes with them.
Yeah.
So they had to have like a come to Jesus meeting, they said, about
and be
the
like,
future
what are
of the
we
show.
doing here, you guys?
Right?
Yeah.
Was that in the article?
Yeah.
That was interesting.
And that they were, Alex Baskin said like, yes, we were floundering before Sandoval, we like didn't really have a path forward. And then they said that sometimes he regrets that Sandoval even happened because it's made it really hard to make the show because of the public being out at the restaurants all the time, the paparazzi. Apparently they said that there's going to be a storyline about their photo. Oh yeah, I remember. It's that they all posed for a photo with a fan, including Sandoval, and that broke through to the news.
Yeah, so
and that'll be next week.
You're right. That's gonna be similar to Southern Charm when they hear the Page 6 news while they're on a trip, so they're actively responding to something being out there in the public.
Right. Yeah, so I thought that was interesting. But yeah, it was kind of like a depressing outlook on the state of reality TV and the state of the entertainment industry at large. That like at one point they needed 3 warehouses because they were coming up with so many. It was like a Willy Wonka factory of reality shows, and then all the streamers are like oversaturated, and they're like, actually, we don't need anything. And now it's like an empty warehouse, and they're like, people work remotely, so
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that was interesting too. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't know. It didn't do anything, obviously, to affect anyone's perception of Tom Sandoval in a positive light.
No.
If anything, it just made everyone more mad at him.
Yeah, I'm curious about what he thought it was going to be or what he was hoping for.
He has it in his mind, not to speak for him, but I think he thinks with enough time he can convince anybody of anything. And whatever that is, ego, hubris.
Yeah.
I think it's like, if you let me talk for 2 hours, I will charm you into thinking that I'm a good person. And I think he thought that he could get away with that with this New York Times. And I didn't really sense a bias towards him in the piece at all. But I think that he was just like, if I tell my story, some people are going to come to my side. Unfortunately, he said a horrendous comment that is not going to...
Yeah, what would have been the case if he just didn't say that one thing? I do like the header image is him looking into the Schwartz and Sandy's bathroom mirror, which real ones recognize that mirror immediately. And I love it. It's like it's the man in the mirror kind of vibes.
I like that too. And the headline is, it's how Tom Sandoval became the most hated man in America. I think that was the title the entire time.
Yes. But yeah, some of the photos, there's one specifically when he's like eating olives from a martini, and it's a very bad photo of him.
I thought the same thing. I've seen Tom Sandoval in 1,000 different photos through the run of watching Vanderpump Rules, and that's the worst photo I've ever seen of him.
They did him dirty there.
His eyes are blinking, but also opening, so it's like you caught him halfway mid-blink.
Yeah. I think the one of him it was, I think, the one that like gets shared when you share the link of him like looking up into space. I think it's kind of a cool photo.
Okay.
I gotta say.
Yeah, I'll give them that.
It was giving like David LaChapelle.
Yeah, so I don't think really, if he hadn't said that one, comparison, I don't really think that this profile would have made anyone think any differently about Tom Sandoval, in my opinion. It was just, I think it was more for New York Times readers to get a sense of what was going on with Sandoval and have like one of the principal figures of it speak. But to me, 90% of that, like we knew,
Sure, it was just recap.
Right.
Yeah, I'm curious what will happen next, but I don't know. It was kind of just, it's hard reading something when you know every single detail already. They did mention they recapped his modeling career in Miami, and they said that which I feel like maybe I knew, but I looked for it and I couldn't find it, that he was in a Bruce Weber Abercrombie campaign, like one of those classic ones that were like the bags, like the black and white. And when I Googled it, I couldn't find it. So if anyone on Reddit or something has it, will you send it? I want to see it.
Yeah, I want to see that too. Yeah, he was like, I had a really versatile look or whatever. He was like, I could be a slicked back person. I could be an emo guy.
What was it? It was like Daddy Doesn't Love Me, he called it.
Yeah,
for the emo
I've got the
one.
Daddy Doesn't Love Me look. I was like, wow, that's one of the 3.
Yeah. They also said that he has like an automatic response to background noise. Like if there's a helicopter or a siren, he stops talking no matter what because he's so used to being on camera.
Yeah, it's hold for plane.
Yeah.
And also he has diffusers on all of his lights in his house to where like, so the light can't shine properly because it's good for production to have like diffused light or whatever. So he says, I just keep these up no matter what. So they were kind of saying that his life is so co-opted by the show that everything from Vanderpump Rules that he gives bleeds into his life off Vanderpump Rules, and he doesn't really know where it begins and ends.
Which I'm sure is true for all of them.
Yes, totally.
Like, they used him as the example. The piece was about him, but I'm sure they all do shit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
Like, they've all been on the show the same amount of time, basically.
Yeah. Well, good. Do we parse that accurately?
I think so. Well, I hope I'm not canceled now
No.
for saying that he shouldn't be canceled.
I you know what? I might be taking into account a few outlier, people that I think that was the immediate response that, like people just being like, absolutely, he should be fired. And maybe that's not the majority take. Maybe the majority take is this is a very stupid person who said something even more dumb than he said in the past, extremely inflammatory and insensitive, like you said.
Yeah.
But it might be more par for the course with on this show in terms of the Vanderpump Rules things that we've heard from all of the cast members, just like the most egregious at this time.
Yeah. I did think I liked the behind the scenes peek at the Bravo PR having to step in, though. I thought that was kind of funny. They sold him out in that way where they were like, because they revealed that she was like, I could tell this wasn't ordinary because the Bravo PR person introduced herself to Tom, which means she's not usually there.
Wow.
And she was like, you made a wonderful mocktail for me once at Schwartz and Sandy. So like they had met, but usually they don't call in the big guns.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, was there any other, news to talk about before we get into Vanderpump Rules proper?
I think that anything else will probably come up naturally through the course of talking about the episode. I know you listened to Rachel Goes Rogue. Do you think, is there something that doesn't pertain to the episode that we could talk about before?
I think there were some interesting things, I guess, about Rachel Goes Rogue. I mean, when I looked at my notes from like what I took away from it, I'm like, none of this is that interesting. I feel like the premise of Rachel Goes Rogue now is like Rachel's like, well, I'm still an active participant in the season, even though I'm not on camera. So now, I have to say my story because I'm being, I'm like being included in the narrative or whatever. But it's like, I think that's only going to happen for a few more episodes until you don't realize that you're not going to film with them, and then they're really not going to include you as part of the story.
Right.
So I don't know how long the premise of Rachel Goes Rogue will make sense, because I think that they are going to move past Rachel's presence on the show and get past it.
You sound like Sheena on her podcast. Did you see Rachel's clapback? Sheena was like, Rachel posted like a reel or a TikTok or both of Sheena saying on her podcast, like, what is episode 10 of Rachel Goes Rogue going to be about once she has nothing left to say about Sandoval or whatever? And then she cut together a like 3-minute montage of Sheena saying Tom Sandoval, Scandoval, just mentioning it nonstop for the past year. And it was a bit of a slay, I have to say.
Okay, yeah, it was a sleigh. It was a sleigh because it was the first piece of like a viral meme that Rachel Goes Rogue Enterprises created, and I was like, this is good. I mean, if you did stuff like this, you win people over, like just like you said. I do think, I mean, no offense, but everyone was talking about Sandoval in the world.
Sure.
And Sheena had, I mean, on her podcast has the right to talk about it as much as she wants. And even if it was like clipped 50 times, imagine how many times we have said it. You would just add this to the,
sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, yes, I understand. Yes, Shenanigans consisted of only Sandoval talk for that long, but it makes sense in terms of how powerful Sandoval was for 6 months.
Yeah. No, I agree. I've said the same thing about Rachel's podcast where it's like, so this is just your thing now? Like,
yeah.
It's a little different when, I mean, I understand people say, why shouldn't she have her voice of like her version of the story, which is true. But if the whole point is that this whole thing is so toxic, then like, why do you still want to be involved?
Yeah.
And they did talk about the reality reckoning in that piece, that New York Times piece as well, which I was like, there's just so much to explain. Like, I was like, oh God, there's like such a big world. Cause then they have to explain who Bethany Frankel is. Right. And then like,
yeah, that's what it was. It was really like explaining everything to a person that might not be at all familiar with reality television.
Yeah.
Like even explaining reality reckoning in Bethany is like a huge ordeal.
Yeah. And then, Rachel's podcast. And I was just like, it kept going. And I was like, I know too much already.
I don't know. Yeah. I guess either way that Rachel wants to go through the navigate the future post Vanderpump Rules. Either way, it's sort of it's going to be very hard to keep engagement up because either you're commenting on a show that you are not going to be referenced at all next season. I mean, it can only be this season that she's even referenced at all. They're not going to reference her again next season.
Yeah.
So is it just going to be a commentary on everyone who says a thing about you? You provide the response. And then is Rachel Goes Rogue going to evolve to be like now she's going to bring in like therapists and other people to talk about the complicated dynamics of all the reality? And I'm less interested in that aspect of the show personally.
Yeah.
I just don't really care what like someone who discusses why we smile when we're talking about awkward conversations. It's like, that's not what I'm listening to Rachel Goes Rogue for.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I'm sure even Rachel doesn't know what the future of what she wants to be, like a public figure that's not a part of Vanderpump Rules. Like what will she, offer to the world in terms of like, I guess it's called entertainment. Like what are we going to get from Rachel Goes Rogue after the Vanderpump Rules era that she existed in is over? But yeah, she did provide some interesting things. She said that like, for me, I was interested because she said that about the planning of the engagement. So Tom Sandoval like paying for the Rachel, what was it called?
Archella.
Archella? Yeah, she said that Tom Sandoval told her to her face that he did that for the show because he knew that season 9 was so impacted by COVID that he thought if he put money into this thing, it would be a very engaging storyline and be good for the show overall. Because she says that Tom Sandoval treats Vanderpump Rules almost like his higher power, where everything he does is dedicated to making the show as good / as successful as it can be. And then that sort of, goes hand in hand with that profile where it's like he lets his house be a filming location, even in the off season. So she said that. She said that she never told Nima, that person that was referenced last week, that Tom told her that that they were in an open relationship. She said that the way Tom and Ariana treated her at Coachella a year before, they were being very sweet to her and almost like loving towards her. And Rachel said to Jesse Montana that she got the sense that Tom and Ariana were in an open relationship. And Jesse Montana said something like, would you be down for that if they were? And Rachel said, I'd be more interested in having sex with Ariana than Tom Sandoval.
Wow.
And then, so Jesse Montana relaying that to Nima, or Rachel relaying that to Nima, he just got it wrong that Tom Sandoval specifically said that. And Rachel has no reason really to lie right now because if she wanted to make Tom Sandoval look even worse, she would.
Yeah.
So I don't think that open relationship comment was true. Okay. Then she said that Tom Sandoval bringing up the Nema podcast actually hurt her more because
Right.
everyone in the world probably forgot that podcast, even you and I. I didn't
Yeah.
remember that. And I
Yeah.
listened to every episode of Shenanigans at the height of Sandoval. So she said him bringing it up on national television caused her more distress because now everybody would go look for it and
Right.
find what had hurt her. So it's like,
Right.
if you really cared about my feelings, you would not bring it up again and make me relive this in a more powerful way.
Right.
So that was interesting. And then she said overall, she thinks that Tom Sandoval and James were not very close. Like they did not have a close friendship. But she said that James always admired Sandoval because Sandoval stuck up for him when he was the underdog. So there's always a little bit of that big brother energy that he has. But she doesn't think overall Tom Sandoval and James are very close friends.
Got it. Okay. I mean, yeah, it's just, I think she's got to move on.
Yeah, I think we said it, and we've said it a lot. I think that if you wanted to continue being a part of the Vanderpump Rules, a rogue figure within the Vanderpump Rules universe, you could have gone rogue on Vanderpump Rules.
Yeah.
And being a cast member, and you could have done every single thing you want to claim or every single stance you want to take or every single thing you're aggrieved by. You could have had those moments and you would have had a receptive audience there for the most part. I mean, how powerful would it have been if Rachel started to confide in Lala, who wanted to have a conversation with her about how Tom Sandoval manipulated her through this process. And we got to see that Tom Sandoval had to outwardly say how much he still loved Rachel, and then Rachel is saying, you were actually detrimental to my mental health and I want to move past you, like on the season of the show.
Yeah.
So I think it's either, I don't know, I don't think that this is viable for much longer, and I think the most powerful way she could have conveyed her story would have been to be on a cast member on Vanderpump Rules.
Yeah. Was it Tom that said at the end of the article that like she might still come back or something like that? Like he was like, what else is she going to do? And then Alex Baskin got in another, not dig, but reference to how much she made last season and how much she would have made to be on, and also threw in, I don't remember if I had heard this before, that he said her team also wanted to negotiate like a development deal with Bravo. Like that was one of her asks.
Right, I know.
Which I'm like, what?
That she's tried to sweep under the rug that was ever a factor in her decision making to be on the show, but it clearly was. And then they were just like, no, absolutely not.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing. It's to quote Bethany, you can't play stupid and smart. Where I feel like she plays the mental health aspect, but secondarily, which I'm not blaming her. She's in this business, she wants to make money and have a career, she's allowed to do that, but it's like she's looking for opportunities. She's trying to figure out if the show's the better opportunity, if the podcast is a better opportunity, if she could have a spin-off, whatever. So she's like negotiating a deal out of like, for money and for notoriety and for whatever, but then at the same time is saying that her biggest concern is mental health. And I'm like, well, if we want to focus on mental health, then all of this should be scrapped.
Right. Yeah. Like that should have never been a factor in your decision making.
I understand that that's not the way these people live.
Yeah, totally. I think my main takeaway is just that this is not sustainable. And until she finds another way to convince people to, who want to listen to her, or she just needs to find a new way to live post Vanderpump Rules, and it can't just be commenting on it, I think, for all time.
Yeah, it's just kind of weird to be in the sidelines and just like chiming in again and again.
But I do like the details I get, but I just think that soon they will be exhausted.
Yeah. I guess I did watch the after show again this week, so that will be peppered in. It's interesting.
The after show.
Yeah,
it's great. Oh, it's so good. I love the after show. It's like I love when it took place in the timeline. I love what you can glean from the fact that like Sheena does not seem to be in a good place with Ariana at all.
Yeah.
It's like there's a lot of merit to the after show.
I wish it was on the night of.
I know, me too.
Why not?
Yeah. One last thing I'll say before we dip into Vanderpump Rules is that Alex Baskin seemed to confirm again that Vanderpump Rules would most likely have ended after season 10. He said that season 9 was like dire ratings wise, and potentially the end of the show, but they wanted to give it one last season 10 victory lap or something, like one more chance. And then Sandoval happened and created the biggest thing that's ever happened. But now the same dynamics in the group that still led them to why season 9 was kind of a flop are still there. It got like artificially inflated, the power of Vanderpump Rules. So it's like interesting that the biggest thing to ever happen.
It's a double-edged sword.
It totally is. Yeah. And I just can't believe, I mean, Alex Baskin seems pretty forthright by saying, he's like, season 10 most likely would have been the last.
Yeah. No, it's very interesting. It was like a Hail Mary by the universe.
Yeah, totally. Cool. Okay, well, let's take a quick, certified turtle piss break?
Sure.
If you need one or I need one, and then we'll come back ready to talk about Vanderpump Rules. Episode 4, it was called Dog Days of Summer.
Let's do it.
We're back.
Hello.
I didn't think we were both actually going to take a certified turtle piss break, but we both did.
But you know what? We did.
Isn't that awesome of us?
You know what? Sometimes it's better to be safe than sorry.
You think so?
Even though you're not supposed to do that for your bladder health.
Yeah,
You're not supposed to go preemptively.
Yeah, you're supposed to wait until it physically almost hurts and pee is basically almost squirting out before you're supposed to do it, I heard.
Yeah.
But I feel the opposite. The minute I feel even a drip start to enter my body, I'm ready.
1 out of 10, let it out.
One, you said 1 to a 10, no matter what degree it's at, right?
Yeah, even if you just have the inference of
I
having
like
to pee, you should pee.
I really, and I think they don't know. Who knows?
Like I said, maybe we should enter our diapers era, like Sonia.
She wears diapers?
Yeah.
At what point?
She wears them in Cartagena. She wears them, she said, on the Hamptons Jitney, the bus. Okay. She's like, why not just wear a diaper? No one's the wiser.
I think it would be, I don't think we should tell the, our little turtle cuties or whatever when we do start to wear diapers, but maybe slowly the certified turtle piss break will phase out and they'll have to assume, if they see like a big bunch in our pants and they know,
that's our Vanderpump Rules era.
Right.
I'll never let that joke die. Thank you, Lisa. Okay. So Dog Days of Summer. I didn't think that the Graham storyline was going to come this fast.
No, I also did not think that. And even when an episode is so clearly titled that, I knew the title before going into the episode. I saw it everywhere. Dog Days of Summer. And I was like, oh, well, there's not going to be anything related to a dog in this episode. Yeah. I just thought, I didn't understand it. Yeah. But this is it.
Yeah.
Were you like me where you heard that it happened at Lake Tahoe and Lisa descended down the stairs? Was that just a rumor we were perpetuating on our own?
Well, I guess we assumed. So it sounds like from my memory that Graham does go on that trip.
Yeah, he was in photos.
I feel like we just conflated the two. That's a big storyline. This is a big storyline.
I swear I thought that I heard Sheena or someone talk about the Graham storyline and they said we were in Lake Tahoe.
Maybe they do it again
Lisa,
for the group.
Yeah, you know what? That's right. Lisa is going to descend down the stairs again to show Sheena and Lala that she has Graham. Yeah. So nice she did it twice.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Lala on the after show was saying that she maybe thinks it's a different dog still.
That was a great thing to bring up. And I didn't know how soon Graham realized that it was, did I say it's how soon James realized that it was Graham. But then I thought about it. It's like, I know how my dogs look. Yeah. Like I know exactly every little face they make. So it makes sense.
He said that he had the same wiggle that he always had. Yeah.
So I didn't know this was going to happen. I guess we'll wait, to talk about it at the end of the episode. But yeah, I was shocked by this. Vanderpump Rules shocked me. I was just as shocked as James.
Yeah. So it starts at James's house. They gave him that airplane intro again. Yep. They're just going to do it every single time, I think.
Yes, I think so too.
Which I think, did they ask Schwartz on Watch What Happens Live if he thinks that it's so bad or whatever? And he's like, it ends up, he's like, we had something similar at our house, and it just becomes white noise after a while, like not a big deal.
It's true. I know that firsthand because I lived next to the 101 in Silver Lake. I lived right next to the wall that separated
God.
our house from the 101. And it sounded, the first couple of days we went there, it's obviously the worst noise you could ever hear in your life. And we all got used to it after a year of living there.
Yeah.
It did just become white noise.
Yeah. I used to, until recently, live near the children's hospital, and you would hear helicopters, and for a second I would be annoyed, and then I'd realize that I need to get my act together because that's very sad.
Of course, whatever is happening there is bad.
Yeah.
Right?
Just
I thought
bad news.
Before you said hospital, I thought you were going to say I used to hear the laughter of children.
Well, that too, but that's another story. So then, oh my gosh, this was funny. Ariana and Katie, after they left Sir last episode, they got an Uber driver who revealed that he's the one that drove Ariana and Tom home on March 1st, 2023, when they were screaming at each other, fighting right after she found out at Tom Tom.
Yeah, he said, or I guess when he delivered her back to her home, he goes, "Oh my God, I remember you now, right? You were
He's
in
like, I remember this house. You and your husband were
Yeah.
fighting because he cheated or whatever.
Yeah. What? But she says something like, "Katie, what about that lift last night or whatever?" And I was like, "Was Katie in the lift?" And then Ariana is explaining to her what happened because then Katie didn't know any of the details.
Maybe
to
she
it.
dropped her off first or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so.
But maybe that guy just always works on that block.
Yeah,
you know?
'cause this is basically the same drive that he made.
Yeah. That was funny though.
I thought that was interesting. Of all the things that, and Ariana says that, imagine who would love to interview that Lyft driver about what he witnessed or heard in that car.
Yeah, he didn't realize what a moment in history. They should track him down. That would be funny.
Them?
Like the show.
And just ask him what it was like?
He should be the bartender.
Oh, yeah. I would like that too. I mean, I'm sure it was just, I know, it would be interesting to hear. Right?
But yeah, then they're talking shit about Schwartz as they do, saying they don't want to go to Tahoe or whatever. And then I felt like they did Ariana a little dirty. They had her talking shit about Schwartz while holding up a makeup mirror and putting her powder on. And I was like, what were they trying to show us?
It was giving the, who's the villain in Snow White?
Oh, is that Maleficent?
I'm not sure. But
No, that's Sleeping Beauty. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who's the villain in Sleeping Beauty? Maleficent?
Yeah.
I don't know. It was, to me, I thought the same thing. I was like, but she did say, like, she knew that she was going to be, that confessional moment would be used. So she was fine.
Did she think it was a sleigh? Like, did she think it was like funny to be like, I'm unbothered, like I'm doing my makeup while I talk about this? Or was she just kind of like, I don't know.
I think it was, what's it, Rorschach?
Uh-huh.
I think it's a Rorschach test to, like, in terms of how you view Ariana. Like, if you wanted to say, like, oh, she's saying something like about Schwartz, about how, like, he's being horrendous or whatever, and she's doing this thing where she's like, looking in the mirror and trying to make herself look better. Like, you could say, oh, that's kind of a villainous edit, but also you could be like, yeah, it's cool. Like, she's so unbothered that she's like doing her makeup or fixing her hair while she's also talking about this shit.
Yeah. It was kind of weird. I don't know.
But she made it so they had to use that because what she said was good. A great confessional conversation. She just decided to be fixing herself up during it.
Yeah. I guess she was going for unbothered.
She said that it is so like a man, Schwartz as a man, to assume Ariana's disposition, even though he hasn't been around her for months. Mm-hmm. And I'll say, a little counter to that. I think it's sorry. I mean, no. I don't. I'm not debating that he's a man and he had that assumption. But I will say that Schwartz does know Ariana. Just because he hasn't been with her in the last few months,
sure,
he's got a long history with Ariana. And I think if you don't see someone for 6 months, even at a pivotal time in their life, you still know them,
right?
Right? I you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not out on a limb on that.
They go way back. Yeah. I don't know. I'm curious to see how this nets out because, as I've said on the after show, she still seems very over it, and her takes haven't changed.
I'm not. Yeah, you know what? I watched the new after show, and I'm not actually getting that same sense as you that she feels very tired and over it. I'm not getting that sense. I actually think her takes are much better when she's removed from the actual action and she has more time to think in that environment. I actually get what she's saying more on the after show than when she's in these confessionals at the height of the moment. At the height of the moment. Yeah. So, but I think I'm tired of like caveating about like, you and I are going to, for the rest of the season, talk about things about Schwartz and Sandoval, and they're going to sound like they're in defense or whatever, and then we're like making fun of Ariana, but it's like that's just not how you can watch Vanderpump Rules properly and recap it and talk about it. So I just want to be fully honest about everything, you know, I feel, even if it sounds like it's a defense of indefensible actions that Tom Sandoval made. You know, I couldn't be more on Ariana's side through this whole thing. And what Tom Sandoval did is one of the worst things in the world you could ever do to a human. And but still, there has to be nuance when we talk about all these things.
Yeah.
So that leads me to talking about the Tahoe trip.
Yeah.
And Katie like actively not wanting to go on this Tahoe trip, which she says that she has to get work done for something about her, and that's why she can't go to Lake Tahoe because there's like permits and she's hiring the staff.
Does she not go?
I don't think she goes. I mean, he says they all say multiple times that Katie and Ariana are not going.
I thought Ariana went though.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so.
Because in that photo that with the fans posing that we heard about, I think Ariana's in the photo, and that's why people were like, "What the fuck?"
No, she's not in it.
Oh,
no, Sheena's in it.
Oh, I thought that she was in it.
No,
I thought she was.
I'm almost positive Ariana's not in a photo with Tom Sandoval.
We'll see.
Are you sure? Do you think?
I remember that because I remember being like, "What the hell?" Like, I think she like the whole group was there, and I feel like she like posed on the side or something.
Maybe. So wait, but this entire episode they're talking about how they're not going to go, and you think that they surprise them and go? I mean, I know that there's a bonus that they get, and they actually get paid more if they go to every event. So
I just wouldn't be surprised if they do go.
Did you watch the scenes from next week's episode where they're all howling at the moon at Wolf? Did you watch that?
Oh, yeah, it was quick.
Okay, I'm wondering if Katie and Ariana were in that. I'm almost positive that Ariana would not have been in a photo with Tom Sandoval at that moment. But if you're right, I'm remembering this.
We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's good that there's surprises. But I just think that Katie's justification for not going on this Tahoe trip is a little weak.
Yeah.
I don't think in those 3 days she had a lot to do.
I mean, it's almost March 2024 and they are not open. So.
Right. And she said, I would rather eat a jean jacket than go on this trip. But it's like.
What was that reference to?
You know, when you eat a jean jacket, it's one of the worst things you can eat. So you really don't want to do that.
Oh, was I missing something there?
No, I think she's just wearing more jean jackets and she's realizing how awful it would be to eat one. Or if it might be a pop culture reference. I'm not sure. But I have to say about Katie, and I'm just going to bring it up now. I had so much goodwill towards Katie last season. I was like, this is Katie's season.
The Satchel era.
If Ariana hadn't claimed it for herself and it became Ariana's season definitively, Ariana was the hero of last season. Tom Sandoval was the villain. It was Katie's season for the taking. The way she navigated her divorce with Tom Schwartz and made Tom Schwartz look like a bumbling child. And she was so powerful and responding to Rachel kissing her ex-husband and all that shit.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, I'm like riding for Katie. But now Katie is really taking a back seat to Ariana. And people will say she's a loyal friend. Like, this is amazing. But Katie and Ariana, this alliance, like, I love it. But I never would have ever imagined that, like, Ariana's de facto number one best friend is now Katie in all of her scenes, and that every decision they make are fully correlated for all of the future. Like, Katie has no nuance anymore.
I mean, at the after show, she like doesn't speak a word, and I'll say it. That's her natural way of being, is finding a powerful alpha and being by their side.
Right. That's
Stassi 2.0.
Right, and but I'm like, okay.
And Ariana's one of the only people that was as alpha as Stassi.
Yes.
She would never give Stassi the time of day, and it drove Stassi insane.
But I'm of two minds of this, and I'm of two minds of almost everything. Of two minds. Part of me is like, Katie enjoys being the best friend to someone and doesn't need to actively do a lot, when she is helping someone else out, or she's fine being the person that someone relies on during a tough time or whatever. I mean, she was that for Stassi. But then a part of me is like, when Katie was the alpha in season 10, she was so much more powerful and making a lot of great decisions, and even the bad decisions she made, like they were justifiable. I don't even think she made any like horrific decisions in season 10. I was like almost fully on her side. So I just don't know why she enjoys taking the back seat in these situations like that now that, you know what I mean? And I would have never, I guess, just imagined that Katie would have just become Ariana's ride or die best friend through thick and thin just because they opened a sandwich shop together.
Right. I mean, it was weird that they did that in the first place, considering that they weren't very close.
It's a new alliance that we have to think about, right?
I guess.
You don't think we have to? Like, it shouldn't be taken for granted that Katie and Ariana are now thick as thieves and absolutely connected in all things, right? Because that wasn't always the case.
Right. But I mean, I did think it was interesting that Ariana brought up that she was never allowed to get very close to Katie because of Tom, because he hated her. So it's like, I do believe there was probably something to that she was more loyal to Tom. And so she was like, I'm not going to really fuck with Katie very much because he doesn't want me to. And so she saw Katie through his lens.
Yes.
But I've been getting the vibe on the after show that Katie doesn't necessarily wholeheartedly agree with everything Ariana is saying, but she just doesn't have the energy to like call her on it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that Katie is fine at this period of time, whenever this was filmed in June and July, of being 100% whatever Ariana says is right. And I agree with it. And I haven't heard one counter to anything that Ariana has said. And you could make the case that everything Ariana is saying is perfectly justifiable. I'll say she stretches the limits of that this episode by discounting Tom Sandoval's mental health.
Yeah.
But yeah. I don't know. I guess I've already come to like take for granted that Katie is Ariana's ride or die best friend. And that just happened this season.
Yeah.
It's never happened before.
Yeah.
But you're right. Things have changed. Ariana's now viewing Katie differently, but this is not a tested friendship.
Right. Yeah. And it is true now that like Katie has to stand in full support because of what Ariana's going through. So it's already sort of an off-kilter friendship because she just has to, not blindly, but like wholeheartedly just say like, yes, girl, like
Yes.
do what you need. Fuck Tom, like fuck Schwartz, like, like
Call the cops on him. I mean, we could just say Ariana in the after show saying like, or if she would have said, I would have called the cops. Like, I need to get sleep and he's partying with people who I hate in my house. And Katie would have agreed, even though she thought it was the worst thing in the world when Randall played the cop prank. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything that Ariana can say now that would get pushback from Katie. And also it's interesting to think that Lisa Vanderpump, when she's calling this summit at Villa Rosa to change the game of this season, she doesn't even think about inviting Katie because she knows it's a complete lost cause.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's why I know that it started off with a performative moment with the Rachel call, but I think Lala is embodying that in-between spirit that I honestly appreciate having.
Yeah. Yeah, I do honor that in-between spirit. I think it means more to me coming from Sheena than it does to Lala, because I think Lala is less authentic with the stances she takes throughout the entire show, and this seems like a good move for her to, however she wants to justify it. I do think she's legitimately thinking about it. But for me, the moral dilemma that Sheena has is way more interesting to me, because that is a hard position to be in.
Yeah, Sheena's in a true rock and a hard place because she was basically equally close with both parties. Lala has no skin in the game, but I do enjoy her she's kind of using this entire scenario to do some soul searching, or lead us to believe she's doing soul searching on everything that happened with Randall, why she was triggered so strongly with the Sandoval of it all, how she responded, how she regrets the way she responded. And I don't know, I like, it's almost like her the way Erica Jane has been more
Yes.
recently, where you're very surprised that she's able to keep it together, because historically that has not been the case.
They're very similar, Erica
So-
Jane and Lala.
Yeah, like her conversation with Schwartz by the pool, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I loved her conversation with Schwartz, which we'll talk about. I thought that was great. A beautiful conversation. And then on the other end of what Lala does wrong, when she's trying to make James's sobriety a storyline for
Right.
her, I was like, this flops like a fish. So I'm divided about Lala. 'Cause
Right.
she has some powerful moments where I'm like, I love everything you're saying. You're so cutting. You're so smart. When she's aimed at the right target, Lala is like powerful as hell. But then she just doesn't get it right half the time, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Yeah, but I like that this point of view is
Yes.
there.
Me too. Oh, of course. What would this show be like if this was not even being brought up at all?
Yeah.
We would not have a season. And that's why they had to have that meeting, I
Right.
think, at Evolution.
Yeah, so then this plays into her and Sheena go to Villa Rosa. Lisa introduces a new dog, Donut,
I know.
little scrappy little
Did you like
fluffer.
Donut? I mean, new
Cute.
dog alert.
I know, wow.
I should have known then. I should have been like, that's why it's called Dog Days of Summer, because Lisa got a new dog.
Right. Did you like that Lisa was making a flower arrangement throughout their entire conversation? She just cannot be stopped.
Yeah, I loved it.
But yeah, it's kind of hard to talk about this because I want to be sensitive, but it does seem like the trigger warning suicide storyline, if I want to call it that, is like the undercurrent of, it's like Lisa is making that the path forward.
Yes.
That's going to keep coming up. Like, I feel like the
Yes.
next 5 episodes are going to have that warning at the end of the episode. So it's like, I want to be sensitive because I am glad that it's being discussed because it's relevant and necessary. But I feel like it's like real tricky then when people start to deny or doubt Tom being truthful about that.
Who is denying that?
Ariana.
Right. Yeah. I think you and I again, a caveat. It's like you and I are sensitive and
Yeah.
are being thoughtful. So anything we say,
Right.
It's like, you know what I mean? Like,
No, I take that shit seriously.
Me
I
too.
think it's good that it's being discussed. It's just interesting seeing it continue to be the thing that gets brought up.
Right.
Meaning that it's almost like it's like a silver bullet against
yes.
not what he did, but like the backlash, because it's like, well, you can't argue with the flip side.
Right.
Which I think is real. But I also think it's being used as basically the only solid ground to stand on of giving him a break.
Yes, and it's Lisa is using it, for lack of a better term, as her number one evidence to why everyone needs to forgive Tom Sandoval.
Yeah.
And it's easy for her. She didn't have that evidence at the reunion when she was already sticking by his side. But now she's like, hey, we have to really take into account this thing that also personally affected me. And
Yeah.
so Lisa sits Lala and Sheena down to say specifically right to them directly, you need to take it easy on Tom Sandoval. He contemplated suicide, and we need to really reassess how we treat him for his mental well-being.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a difference though between reaching out to someone or not, wishing they were dead or making their life total hell. There's a difference between that and being like, I hope that you're okay. Like generally, like there's
Right.
like, you can still be like boundaried and not have to be back in best friends with someone just because you're like, I hope that you're doing okay. Like, I know this was a lot or whatever. And on the after show, they were kind of saying like, Lala also, you could tell, was like, how do I say this? Like everyone's kind of like, how do I
Just like
talk
us.
about this? Yeah. But she was saying she felt a little bit like Lisa was putting it on them.
Yes.
That like if he had done something, that basically it would have been their fault,
Yeah.
and it's up to them to stop him.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and then Ariana said, which, Ariana said it as well as someone can say it. She said, if Lisa really thought those things, she should have gotten professional help
Yeah.
for Tom Sandoval and not told it to Sheena and Lala, who are not equipped
Right.
to deal with this properly. If it was a serious thing that Lisa was thinking about, she would have reached out to someone professional and not put that mental health burden that it is Sheena and Lala's job to make Tom Sandoval feel better during this time.
Right.
And I mean, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Sheena feels that way too, but she doesn't want to say it because she never wants to be on Lisa's bad side. But I think it was a little manipulative of Lisa to put Tom Sandoval's emotional well-being and make them accountable for what potentially could happen to him. Brock says the same thing later. Mm-hmm. He says that about Lisa. He says, Sheena, I don't think it was fair for you to have to hold that burden of Tom Sandoval's mental well-being.
Yeah, and then on the after show, I'm just going to keep saying that, Sheena reveals that she lost a friend years ago who she had talked to, and maybe her final words to that person weren't what she wishes they were. And so she's also triggered by this and is like, I would never want something like that to happen again. Like I'm also very sensitive to that kind of a thing.
Right.
But yeah, like Ariana was saying, her take on this was that she's like, well, Tom talked about my thoughts like that on fucking Howie Mandel, so he wasn't so sensitive about it then.
Right.
So it's like, it depends who you're talking about, I guess. So I think she was like kind of like pissed that now he's getting the, the nice treatment when like she had been through something like that and he brought it up publicly.
Right.
To kind of defend himself, saying that like his life was hell because she had those thoughts or whatever.
Yeah, totally. And he did. I mean, I remember when he was on Howie Mandel saying that shit to like the world. And it was horrible. It was awful. But I guess what can we do as people who are thinking about this and really trying to grapple with this, but not consider that, but then also consider this? It's like it's a what's that called, case by case basis. I know you factor in everything in the world, but if he did that and he said that on Howie Mandel and he was sort of playing with the idea of mental health and not representing it well or outing that, but then also he's in this state and we can't deny that he is. I mean, he one of the most reviled people in America. It's I don't know. It's like we have to just account for everything and still believe when he says this that this is true.
Right. No, yeah, it's really tricky because like Ariana, on one hand, you would think if she had been through that she would understand how serious that is, or would be like, well, I wouldn't wish that on anyone or whatever. Right. But she's still so pissed that she's like, it's bullshit. Yeah. He's using it to manipulate you. It's tricky. It's tricky.
It's tricky, and I think it's going to get trickier and trickier to talk about Vanderpump Rules in the sort of black and white team Ariana, what's the opposite of team? Villain Sandoval structure that everybody wants us to adhere to. It's not easy to talk about this. Yeah,
and like in the pool, which is later, but like she says when Sheena brings up this conversation with Lisa, and she was like, Lisa is seeing a lot of similarities with like what happened with her brother, and like she's worried about it or whatever. And Ariana goes, her brother and Tom are very different people. And I'm like, did you know her brother? Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, so it just feels like bold to like auto veto someone's suicidal tendencies.
Yeah. I mean, she's shaking her head actively while Sheena is.
She's like, absolutely not. Like, we're not going to give him this. No.
Yeah. So at the end of this, because, we'll transition to the pool scene, but Lala and Sheena, once Lisa Vanderpump allows that new fact to be a part of the universe of Vanderpump Rules, you can see now that they are actively going to include Tom Sandoval in the rest of the season. I mean, really, that's like all it took. Not only is Lisa Vanderpump a person that they respect just as their former boss, but this is also a producer of the show, and she just used, like you said, no disrespect, a silver bullet that you cannot deny.
Yeah.
You have to factor that in, and you could almost say that Lisa is saying the show depends on this as well. We cannot move forward if this strong line between the cast exists. This show cannot exist.
Right. Yeah. She tees it up, and Sheena's like crying about how what a great friend Tom was to her, whatever. And Lisa's like, wouldn't it just be better to forgive? And she's like, is it worth losing Ariana? And that's like the big question.
Right. So I want to ask you, so when the reason why Sheena cannot even be in the same room with Tom Sandoval or will sit down with him, but it's like no one can see us, like I will not give you anything. The reason is because she thinks she will lose her best friend, Ariana, because Ariana specifically said, I will not have mutual friends with this person.
Yeah.
Is that a justifiable stance for Ariana to take, given that this is, even in her real life, is it justifiable, but especially in the universe of a reality show, is that a stance that she can continue to take? Because in my opinion, Lala and James, they're not Ariana's best friends.
Yeah.
And I don't think they are as aggrieved by what Tom Sandoval did than even Sheena, or especially Ariana. So they are going to allow Tom Sandoval to come into their life a little bit. You know, they're going to give him put him through the paces. But is Ariana going to say, James, if you ever even start to form a friendship again, you will not be my friend? I don't think she will. Or I don't think she can.
Does she care that much?
Yeah. Do you think already she's gotten away from that moral stance, that line in the sand?
I feel like maybe she's using it for people that she doesn't really want to fuck with anyways, like Schwartz. Like, I feel like she's like over Schwartz anyways. So she's like, I'm done with you.
Right.
You know?
So when, let's say Lala and James, and then to a much greater extent, Sheena, when they do start to dive in to the Tom Sandoval world again and potentially start to forgive him, you don't think Ariana will adhere to that same stance that she made last year?
She was already like not very bothered about what Lala said to Rachel. Like she wasn't really offended at all about it.
Yeah. I mean, her stance was, I will not have mutual friends with this person.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what she's going to do.
Yeah. But do you agree with me that that it's not viable for the show to operate under those?
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think she cares, which is like detrimental.
That Ariana doesn't care.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I don't think she does either. I have to give her credit that she is doing what she would have actually done in real life, which is that she would have written him off and never seen him again, ever. Well, except I guess in their house.
Yeah.
But would have never ever talked to this person again if this was real life. And the only reason she even sort of will bend on that stance is because of a reality show.
Right.
So it's making her corrupt her reality.
Yeah.
For the show.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it was weird. Did you see on the after show, Lala was saying that she was basically saying that Ariana doesn't have a leg to stand on because they still live in the same house.
Yeah.
Like she was like, imagine if I would have told people that they weren't allowed to play pickleball with Rand, but I still lived in the house. And I was like, I mean, I think it's weird that they still live in the house in the sense that like they just cannot get on the same page about what to do with it. But I don't think it means that like she's somehow not furious with him just because she lives there.
Lala is really hung up on that aspect of it. That's her silver bullet in terms of how she can get away with talking critically of Ariana. That would never be the hill that I would die on. It doesn't make, it's not,
no.
You
and
can
it's like,
still have a strong hatred of someone and then be trying to actively navigate a really complicated real estate decision that
right, because they co-own, which Lala never did.
And I think if Lala would have told Schwartz not to play pickleball but still did have to live in his house, she would not think that was not justifiable. She would have said, I absolutely am taking this person for all he's worth and I'm going to die in this house, but I still want you to hate him with me.
Yeah,
she would take that.
Totally.
So I don't know why Lala keeps using that as her one way to criticize this scenario. It's not very good, not very strong evidence.
Yeah,
but Lala
weird.
can justify anything.
It's true. Yeah. Okay, so Schwartz shows up to the pool party, brings another plant for some reason.
Now, why is he doing this? I can't just let us brush past it. This is the third plant.
Yeah, it's weird.
He's making Allie have to be mean in her confessional, which she never is. Not mean, but she's making Allie have to call into question why she's getting so many plants. Is it because you never go to a new house as a guest empty-handed, and he's just using plants as the one gift that he wants to keep giving?
I guess he's in his plant era, although me and my friends were joking that some of his plants are looking a little crusty in his apartment. Maybe not the biggest green thumb.
Do you think he's possibly not knowing what's going to get cut? Scenes are going to get cut every time he goes to James and Allie's house, so he's making sure that he arrives with a plant in at least one scene?
I guess. I mean, he also brought tequila this week, so he came with 2 gifts.
But the tequila makes sense.
Yeah, but then it's like, so you brought something. You didn't also have to bring a plant.
Right. I guess I think I don't know why he's doing it, but I guess he just really, really loves plants and wants them to have 3 of them.
I guess so. Also, I was alarmed to see James jumping off the roof and then Schwartz jumping off the roof. And I was like, no one should be doing this. But I feel like especially Schwartz, like he just seems like accident prone to me. I don't know if that's based on fact, but
I don't think it is.
Maybe it's his lack of athleticism compared to maybe the others. Like Tom Sandoval would do like a backflip, and I feel like James is kind of that way too. And I feel like Schwartz is not.
You know, I don't think Schwartz is accident prone, but I get exactly what you're saying, where I was a little more worried about Schwartz up there.
Yeah.
I think that the roof was close enough to the pool where that was a safe jump, but you're right. No one should do that.
No, it was giving, to bring up Almost Famous again. Remember, he's like, I'm a golden god, and jumps off the roof.
Yeah, but he lands in the pool, right?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. I thought I was like, he doesn't die right then. Did you like this pool party overall?
I mean, it was giving show.
Yeah, I thought I was of 2 minds again. I was like, would I want this to be a pool party that was vibrant with a bunch of people, but then I know that every time like they pan to the camera, people are looking in the cameras or trying to get the spotlight on them or talking. Like, I hate those scenes too, where it's like, that the hangers on people are there in the mix. Then also this felt a little light, where it's like just the 7 of them plus 3 other people that they never even
just like Jesse
Jericho
is always there. There were a couple question mark people, but
I guess I wasn't. I guess I wasn't sure, but I felt like a little bit of the fun was hampered by this not being a more vibrant pool party. But I don't know how many people I would have accepted in the mix to make it a little more fun.
Yeah, I also think James needs to invest in a carpenter or someone to help him cover up his electrical components on that back wall. They're real eyesore.
Oh, I didn't see them. What do they look like?
It's just like a massive. It's like the electric meter and like a bunch of like, it's just ugly.
Oh, on the back of the house?
Yeah, needs to get something built around that.
I didn't see that.
And then, oh my God, we go over to Into Me See, the Quantum Wellness Studio.
Yeah, and it's intimacy. But you're right. No, it's spelled like that. Into Me See.
Yes.
Right?
SEA.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. But pronounce intimacy.
Yes.
And then they get in and the person asks Sandoval if he's ever done a cold plunge before, and he says yes.
Of course.
And I was thinking,
world's toughest.
Right. But he doesn't explain that.
Yeah.
But it's for sure
it's
from
no
there.
problem for him. He's obviously with Billy Lee, the only person that will film with him. Also, did you notice Kyle Chan made an appearance in the New York Times piece?
Yeah, he goes up to Sandoval at one point, right? And says,
yeah, they're like, because I feel like they a lot of times didn't name people. Like, they didn't name Katie Maloney. Did you notice that? They were like, Ariana is opening a sandwich shop with another cast member. I was like, oof. But they named Kyle Chan.
What was the Kyle Chan reference?
It was
again?
like, and we ran into, or Kyle Chan was there, a jewelry designer that's one of the only friends who didn't like leave his side or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, when Katie didn't get the name drop, I was like, sucks.
Yeah, that was sad.
So yeah, Billy is amazed at Tom's ability to do the cold plunge.
Overly
she can't
amazed.
fucking believe it.
Overly amazed. She has the same shocked face she had when Tom Sandoval was recounting the James and Kristen sex they was having, where she's just like, she's overdoing all of her reactions to Tom Sandoval. She's treating him like a mythical figure.
I know.
And like, it's like, okay, I like a cold plunge. Okay, I'm sure it's cold as hell, but she's like, how intense is the cold plunge? And he like can barely speak.
He's like, it's intense.
Yeah, she's like 1 out of 10, how intense? And he won't even give her a numerical rating of it. And he goes, this is really intense.
Yeah.
And then that part is kind of weird. You're just watching Billy Lee like hover over him in the bath, talking talking about it's like, people do this. It's not so wild, you know?
Yeah.
They're treating this like this is like, I don't know.
It's like so basic. Like everyone in Hollywood has one of those
like
in their
he has
backyard.
a blindfold and an apple on his head and someone's going to shoot the apple off. And then he goes, I have never, which I thought this connected with me. He said, I feel extremely weird right now. He goes, I have never been an outsider in my friend group, which is so true.
Yeah.
Tom Sandoval has always been if not the center, he's always been specifically advocating for the outsider to come back into a group, and he'll actively fight the group to get an outsider back in. So
Yeah.
He's never been in this. So there's no Tom Sandoval to help him outside of the group because Schwartz sucks at it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He doesn't have a Tom Sandoval in the group to bring him back.
It's true. He said he feels like Andy Dufresne when he first gets to Shawshank.
I think besides Jax talking about Shawshank Redemption 100 times, I think this is the first other cast member who's made a reference.
Yeah.
I
He
thought
knew his name and everything.
Yeah, Andy Dufresne,
Yeah.
right? I thought he was going to be like, I feel like I just crawled out of that pipe covered in shit. But then I was like, that's a good
Maybe
feeling.
that's how the season ends.
He's
Maybe
gonna
we'll
say-
forgive him and he'll climb through the shit and out and get rained on.
I think it's very possible. He could have also said, I feel like I just entered the pipe filled with shit. You know,
Yeah. It's like the Chud Tunnel.
what the tunnel that they created to get out of Shawshank Redemption?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right. And then Billy Lee just keeps looking at him stunned, and then they go back to the pool party.
Yeah. She, every time they cut to her eyes are more wide than my eyes have ever been in my life.
Yeah, she is really wants us to know that she is finding Sandoval really, what's the right word? Really insightful and powerful, and she's stunned by
Yeah.
everything that he's going through. I have a question. Why is this is really mean? And I'm sorry, Billy Lee. I know, Billy. I'm sorry. I didn't tell you this, but Billy Lee wants us on her podcast, Billy
Oh,
and
wow.
the Kid.
Billy and the Kid?
So obviously I'm gonna couch my feelings, but why is Billy Lee so bad on camera and
Yeah.
in these scenes when she was actually a cast member?
Right.
Wasn't she on season 7? Wasn't she a full?
Yeah.
She was almost full time. Like she had scenes with Lisa. She was not getting invited to girls' night. I think that was season 8 or season
Yeah.
7.
She had that full blowout with Lala, right?
Yes, she was. Yes, totally. She was like she was a friend of almost full-time cast member, getting her own scenes. And
She
I'm like,
also appears to not have done the cold plunge herself. She just joined him and watched.
are you with me in all that? Like these scenes, you'd think with a former cast member, if it was Kristen Doty and she
Yeah.
had for some reason forgiven Tom Sandoval, these scenes would hit so hard. But she's just like a blank slate. She's not getting any. She's not creating anything good. And obviously, I understand why Kyle Chan isn't a good scene partner. But Billy Lee, you were on this show.
Yeah.
You're really flopping in these scenes. And also, I have to say, I thought about this again. When Sandoval keeps having to show up to these places with either Kyle Chan, Billy Lee, or Jason, I'm like, if Jax and Kristen and Stassi were still on this show, they would have filmed scenes with him in 2 seconds.
Yeah. I was excited to see the clip from next week where him and Schwartz like drive. I don't know if they drive all the way to Tahoe or they're just in the car together
Yeah.
once they're there. And I was like, well, at least he gets to like have
Yeah.
conversations with somebody.
I mean, really, Schwartz should have been in all of these scenes with Sandoval if he wants to be ride or die for him, but he's just getting pulled in other directions where all the events happen on the same day, and he wants to be more a part of the cast than he does. But he would have probably been the scene partner to Sandoval in all of
Yeah.
these scenes. He just got busy doing other shit.
Yeah. And Billy, they double down again on that conversation where she's like, I thought that we were going to lose you.
I
And
know.
so I'm like, okay, that's just, I guess, what his storyline is for a while.
Yep.
And then we go back to the party where Lala tries to bring up James is drinking to Allie.
Yeah.
So
I just want to take a minute to just say that. So I said this last week where I felt clearly that Lala, when she was talking about James's sobriety, wants to have that be a storyline because it really has nothing to do with her, and she doesn't need to know anything about it other than he has been sober for 3 months, but she wants to, as a sober person, make his journey, a part of her journey. And so she's asked Allie if she can ask James what his rock bottom moment was that sent him on his sober journey, which she says is such a pivotal thing, right?
Yeah.
To every sober person. And Allie's like, yeah, I'm not going to tell you what that was, but he did have a moment. So if you want to ask him, you can.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
It was weird. I don't know. It felt like unnecessary.
It's representative to me of Lala not really knowing what to put out on camera. And once she lost her Rachel storyline that she wanted, now she's making this a part of her storyline.
Right. But then it cuts to James chugging marijuana drinks, which reminded me of him drinking the Fireball on like season 5 or whatever, whenever that was.
Yeah, it was the same thing. It was like he wanted to have that same chaotic energy of like doing something wild, but he's doing it with a weed drink. I mean, he would get high as hell, I think, from chugging half that thing. And then while he's chugging, a fire erupts on the barbecue, and he has a hard time putting it out.
Yeah. Also, Lala, she says her rock bottom was when she was drunk at Disney World for 4 days. She said that she was face chugging booze, and I'm like, isn't chugging face chugging?
Yeah, she means, I think, face chugging like Kristen Doty when, on the scenes after one of those trips, or like James when he did specifically chug.
Isn't that just chugging?
Yeah, I guess.
Did she want us to know it wasn't butt chugging?
I think you say face chugging when it's not, when a bottle of liquor or liquor in a bottle should be put in a cup, but you take it upon yourself to skip the middle person. You know what I mean?
Makes sense.
But you're right about butt chugging. I also thought you didn't have a butt chugging event at Disney World where you're upside down.
You'd be banned.
Yeah, you'd be. Oh, could you imagine? Mickey Mouse would immediately come out and say, "Get the hell out of here." What was her rock bottom story? It's not funny at all. But whenever they show Lala's descent into madness or whatever, like it's always the scene where she called Katie fat.
Right. Yeah.
But so they don't really have her worst, horrible drunken moments on camera. They don't really have evidence of that moment. So
right.
I don't know. I'm always interested because I don't think I never knew what that rock bottom moment was. It was Disney World, being drunk at Disney World, and there was a 4-day bender that ended with her chugging alcohol in bed, and then she said never again. Right?
Yeah, I guess so. No, I think at one point they show her and James like a montage of their relationship, which is a truly unique relationship. And she, they showed how out of control they were together, being like, everyone here clearly isn't working on their summer bodies.
Yeah.
And they were just like freaking frack, being little gremlins.
Totally.
And now she's trying to be like, we've gone through ups and downs together, and now we're going to have a sober journey together. And I'm like, well, we'll see.
We'll see. Then Lala takes a pool float and she starts to float over to Schwartz. She goes, take this little float off my head so I can come talk to you.
Schwartz looks insane.
You thought so?
He's like disheveled, wearing little orange sunglasses and like a Hawaiian shirt. He just looks crazy.
Yeah. And then Lala says, this is all post the Lisa conversation, but I think she would have said this to Schwartz anyway. She was like, I'm sorry I came heavy at you, yesterday or whenever the See You Next Tuesday event was.
Yeah.
It's a process, and I'm still trying to, get over some feelings that I have that this like triggers in me. And Schwartz says, that's a beautiful thing. Thank you so much for acknowledging that.
Yeah, she said she goes from machetes to crying in the fetal position, and she has to figure out something in between, which kind of reminded me of Bethany. Like, I feel like when you're so overwhelmed, like you either like rage or like just sobbing.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and like in contrary to that, Schwartz is like always in the middle. Like he never has that guns blazing versus fetal position.
Yeah.
And then Schwartz switches the conversation to be about Ariana, and he says, there was a moment last night where Ariana looked at me like I was subhuman.
Yeah,
using
a callback
to the words she specifically, said to Rachel at the reunion. He felt subhuman, the way she looked at him and the way she talked to him. And he said she's been exalted to this queen status. He loves the word exalted. He said it now 6 times. And she has this diva energy, and I love her, but I'm not going to fawn for her affection.
Yeah, I respect that.
I know. I think
it's real.
It's very real, which people need to separate when we find something compelling and real. It's not justifying anything. But I do feel like an underrated feud, a great conflict that is going to arise throughout the season is going to be Schwartz versus Ariana.
Yeah.
Two people who have been on the same side of things for 10 years finally have a division in their relationship. And how Schwartz views Ariana matters. I think it matters after their long history.
Yeah.
And how Ariana treats Schwartz matters. And I know she's justified because Tom Schwartz did not tell her the truth. Even though he was friends with her, he did not say that Tom Sandoval was actively doing that. But I just think either way, this is a conflict that has a lot of meaning given their history.
Yeah. And then I liked that Lala, she basically like let him say that. She was basically like, I get what you mean.
Did you think like me that she was going to jump into the water and create a big, huge, what's that called when you make a huge
Like a
wake?
cannonball?
And then race to tell Ariana what he said?
No, I was vibing on their connection.
Me too.
I liked it. And then she said she brought in her dad to the equation, which is like her most vulnerable area. And he was immediately like, don't make me cry. Like, I already know. And she said that she is reminded, Schwartz reminds her of her dad in the sense that he was a people pleaser and he was so conflict avoidant that people walked all over him, and that she believes that that's what killed him in the end.
Wow.
And later she says that like, she was saying, I need to practice forgiveness. I can't wear my trauma as a badge of honor anymore. And she says that being angry all the time is killing her. So I feel like she's becoming aware of like harboring resentments is bad for your health.
Yes. Yeah. And she doesn't want to be a dog days of summer, in anyone else's fight anymore.
Right.
And I do think that has been Lala's place for a while. Can I ask you really quick, what happened with Randall again? He was found to be cheating on her in Nashville. He was crossing the street and there was paparazzi photos of him with like two women.
Right.
And then
I assume, wasn't it also just he was cheating like the whole time?
was he?
I think. I don't know. And that like
does it,
she was the other woman after all.
Does it say anything about us and Vanderpump Rules at large, fans at large, that we know nothing about that?
Because I don't care, because I was like, I never thought their relationship was good.
Right. It was more like, Lala, glad you found that out. It took
Yeah.
a little while. Now you're where all of us have been the entire time. That's why it didn't hit hard.
When she talked to Lisa about it, and like she was like, no, because remember his therapist called me directly and told me there was nothing to worry about. And we were like, what?
Yeah, right. Yeah, the way she justified that. The therapist told her that they were officially not married. Like,
right.
Someone he just like
It was
hired to
very
say he was not married.
Weird. But yeah, I like that also that Lala brought up, she was like, I know that Schwartz, you've been going through a lot lately, and sorry that I didn't consider that before, because it's true. Like, we keep talking about these people that are going through low key gnarly shit that just doesn't come up because they don't really want to talk about it, and they're still like it's like Southern Charm, Kyle on Beverly Hills, her friend who died. Schwartz is like, his brother's in rehab, his dad was in the hospital, he had like 5 things going on, and it's like no one really like gave a shit during that era. Like, they weren't like, all right, like, he's struggling.
No.
They were like, he's an idiot.
Yeah, because that is what Bravo does not want to focus on.
Yeah.
And so the cast gets cues from how much he's able to talk about it and make it a part of his story. And Schwartz didn't do that. He just let himself live with those, tragic facts.
Yeah.
So I love this too. I mean, this is a scene where Lala really shines. And I like what Schwartz says about how, like, when we're sort of distant, like, I've always loved you. And then when we got a little distant and didn't talk anymore, it's easy to start to hate someone. And that's where all that rage came from when they were fighting at Tower 12, when the Curse of Tower 12 happened. You see that fight. I mean, they were going at it. That fight was one of the most wildest things I've ever seen, them going at it.
Yeah.
And then he goes, and then all of a sudden I was like criticizing your lips. And he was like, you're one of the most beautiful people I've ever laid eyes on. And I think your lips are beautiful platonically.
Yeah. She said in the after show that she was like, yeah, I never gave a shit what you said about my lips. It was when you came for my livelihood, which I was like, what did he even say? It was like not a big deal.
Well, he said, I want to take food out of your daughter's mouth. And she said, you're literally trying to take food out of my daughter's mouth by saying, I don't like Call Me Daryl merch or whatever it was.
Right.
It wasn't Daryl merch. That was before, but whatever.
Yeah.
He was like making fun of her merch.
Whatever.
Give them Lala.
Oh, yeah.
He was making fun of the brand Give 'em Lala. You know, it's a really sad scene when Randall gets the New York Times cake.
Oh, no.
You know?
It says like bestseller and it's like crossed out or whatever.
Yeah, it said #1 bestseller book, and they had to cross out #1 bestseller, and it just said book. And then he wrote "You made up book" on it. That was
she was bummed.
That was an L in term, like that was a strong L that Lala had to take on television.
Yeah, I know, because it feels like, I don't know the parameters for being a bestseller, but it feels like a lot of the time, if you are a public figure with that many followers, you should be able to hit it.
I think so too, and I think she thought she would too. We're gonna know what having a bestseller is like pretty soon.
When we're bartenders on Watch What Happens Live and release our new book.
Yeah, when we write our memoirs.
Or the novelization of the Sandoval movie.
Either one. We've got a lot of paths to being a New York Times bestseller. I'm not even sure which one we want to take, because no matter what, the end result is that status.
Great. We kind of already talked about it, but they cut back to Tom and Billy Lee, and he said that he really misses Raquel. He hasn't talked to her in 3 weeks.
Yes.
They cut to a phone call from like a month ago, right before he left for World's Toughest Test, and he was saying how much he was going to miss her. He's crying. He said that what they had was love, and he was like, it's not like we were just like sitting around having sex all the time. He's like, hanging out was the best part. Like, he was trying to say like it wasn't just about sex.
He said, he's basically saying we were making love. It wasn't just right.
Yeah, he said, he loved hanging out with her, and that he's like, at this point, he's currently basically saving himself for her, which I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, are you together or not? Like, if you're together, yes, you would not have sex with anyone else. Like,
right. I think he's saving himself for her. I think he's saving for the eventuality that she might return on the show. So he's like, he wants to.
I thought he meant like his virginity.
No, he was. He is saving his virginity. I thought, he might be saving his virginity up until she gets out of the mental health facility. But I think he wanted to allow that his emotional state on the show that he was conveying to the audience would allow that if Rachel came back, they would possibly pick up a relationship again. But I don't think he ever would have laid the groundwork this strongly had he known that Rachel wasn't going to come on the show.
Yeah. It does feel like things will change at a certain point.
Billy is just going, I am so tired of how you're being treated. Look at you now. You're just got out of the cold plunge. You're so cold. I can't believe how cold you are. And I wish people could see how much you're hurting right now, and alluding to the fact that she says, yeah, you already said it, that we might have lost you there. We might have almost lost you.
Yes. Okay. And then we're back in the pool. James does a bit where he's butter bay instead of salt bay, and he pours melted butter all over the corn. He's like tripping balls.
Not James's best bit, I'll say.
No,
because Salt Bay is a little in the past, even when this was filmed.
Salt Bay does look like Peter, though.
Right.
Where's Peter?
Peter was not invited to that pool party.
He had to work, I'm sure. But
wait, has Peter been? Has Peter been in this season?
No, right?
Wait, he didn't show up at See You Next Tuesday to serve them all and say, I missed you all here. I wish you hung out here more. He wasn't in the premiere, right? No, there's been no Peter. What the hell?
Where is he?
He's like, they might not want to pay Peter his high episodic fee.
Yeah.
So like, Peter, if you're not going to do something wild, we're not paying for you to be in this episode.
They're robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Right.
Who's Paul?
Who's Paul? Maybe they're saying like, Peter, you have to stay in the back of Sir because we can't have you enter this episode, even if it's to greet them, because you get paid too much.
Yeah. This is in the pool where Sheena brings up the Lisa conversation. Ariana's not having it.
Well, Ariana opens the floodgates.
Yeah.
She says, what the hell did you and Tom Sandoval talk about over there? It looked painful.
Yeah.
And then Sheena says he wanted to talk about the podcast. I'm not going to get into it. Basically, he was, I don't want to talk about that, but he hated the podcast that I did. Then she said, but more appropriately, what I have to talk about is that Lisa really told us, which we talked about this.
Yeah.
Lisa told us that his mental well-being, she's scared for him, and she wants us to treat him better. And then that's when Ariana instantly is shaking her head, instantly saying that comparing Sandoval with Lisa's brother is not a good comparison.
Yeah.
Which you were right in what you said. I mean,
She's shaking her head no. Katie doesn't really say a word this whole time.
Katie's not even really focused. Like, I know she's saying exactly what Ariana is saying right after Ariana says it, but they don't even film Katie and her reaction to this conversation, barely.
Yeah, she's just kind of there. And then, so this is where, Sheena's really upset, doesn't know what to do. She's like, I don't think you understand. Like, he was a really good friend to me. And Ariana's like, it wasn't genuine.
Yeah.
So-
Can we talk about that for a second? Because I think that's a huge statement to make for Ariana to say. So to ask you, do you think, and I think I asked you this last week, like, does Tom Sandoval genuinely care about Sheena, or is he trying to manipulate Sheena to get back into the group?
Both.
Yeah, I mean, I know he wants to be back in the group. I guess we can just take the latter as assumed.
Yeah, I think he cares about her.
I think so too. I think so too.
What was the thing she was saying that he said he didn't give a shit about Sheena?
Yeah.
What was that about? I don't remember.
Well, he already had to apologize for this in season 10 in the Sandoval episode. But at the height of when they actually found out in Tom Sheena was with Rachel, and they had just had their fight after Watch What Happens Live, and I think Tom Sandoval screamed at her like, Sheena, you're not a good friend to me. You never were. We're just show friends or whatever. And then he had to apologize to her in the Sandoval episode and say, Sheena, I did not mean that. I was just like furious or whatever.
Yeah.
You do mean a lot to me. I do believe that Tom Sandoval and Sheena have a unique friendship. And then in the after show, Sheena talks about how she knew Tom Sandoval before she ever even met Ariana, and she considers them both to be best friends of hers. She
Right.
always says that Ariana is her best friend.
I know. I had to like recalibrate to remember that her and Ariana in the early seasons were always, quote, best friends. And then James gets pissed off because he's like, who gives a shit who you met first at this point? It doesn't matter. And that's when Lala was like, it matters. They started like getting into it about like who she should have loyalty to or whatever. James says it's interesting that he thinks it doesn't matter,
That
like versus what he was saying about him and Kristen 10 years ago. Like, I guess, yeah.
the longevity of a friendship doesn't matter as much as like how much you are a part of each other's lives. But I think Sheena is saying, they both mean a lot to me, which is very fine for her to say.
Yeah,
That
I
Tom
think-
Sandoval's friendship meant a lot to her. And then she says in the after show, she's disappointed with how Ariana and Katie reacted, because instead of asking how she was feeling and how she was navigating through this whole thing, they were instantly trying to downplay Tom Sandoval's version of things that Lisa was trying to generate in the scene.
Yeah.
And she wishes that they would have been like, Sheena, which Katie has a long history of doing this. Katie specifically does not give a fuck about anything that Sheena wrestles with in her life. And then that's why Lala sticks up for her in the after show. And she says, can people just realize that this means a lot to Sheena and that she's impacted by this? Can we give Sheena some grace?
Right.
And I do give Sheena grace.
Right. Because it's like if you were only friends with Ariana to begin with, or, you're closer with her, then it's like, of course you're like, fuck him. Like, I don't need to be friends with him. But if you were friends with both, then that's hard. But Ariana's take during this on the after show is like, she essentially is like, that's not my problem, like about Sheena. Like, she's like, do what you need to do, I guess. But you can tell she's like pissed off about it.
Yeah, she's pissed. She goes, I think it's wrong of Sheena to seek my approval for how she should handle her relationship with Tom Sandoval. It's like, yes. Yes, but the counter to that is that she cares so much about you and losing you that she wants to adhere to this moral code that you put down, but then also still cares about her friendship and doesn't know how to navigate this situation because she's being deferential to you.
And
So it's
Lisa's on the side being like, he might die if you don't.
right. She's got Lisa in her ear on one side, being like, "Yeah, you really need to factor this in." I think Ariana though is very measured in the after show, and she's thought more about it. And she's like, "You care about this person who told you right to your face that he doesn't care about you, and he never gave a shit about you. You care about this person who was actively involved in one of the most traumatic things in your life, which is the restraining order." So she says, if you are still seeking validation from a person that doesn't give a shit about you, I'm sorry. That's sad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. I think Sandoval cares.
Good.
I just do.
Me too. And I think that, but I think to me personally, and I'm only speaking for myself, how Sheena and Schwartz are vacillating in this very tense situation is the most compelling aspect of this to me, given their relationship to both parties.
Yeah. No, I liked it. Got fired up between the three of them on that part. I liked that.
Yes.
So then we get a one-on-one with James coming over to Lala's. She picks up a bottle from a nightstand and he's like, "Is that your bottle?" And we get reminded, I almost forgot that she used to drink out of a bottle at night.
I always remember it. And I love that he said that joke. And I always have a question whenever that scene gets brought up, which is when Lala goes, "I get my Bobby and I put a bib on and I lay down and I watch my favorite show." And I always have wanted to ask Lala what her favorite show was at the time.
I bet it's like The Office.
The Office or Friends?
Yeah. Ariana revealed at one point that during the peak of Sandoval that she could only watch The Office.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, The Office is extremely comforting for so many people, but I would love, if I ever get a chance to ask Lala, I want to remember that I want to ask her what show she used to suck a bottle to go to sleep, because I would love to know. But you're probably right. Friends or The Office.
Yeah. Yeah, so then she asks him, she wants to know that rock bottom. She just really wants to know.
I just think, she's like, I think rock bottom moments are really interesting in terms of somebody's sobriety journey. It's like,
I guess so.
Yeah, I mean, no, but it's like, they really are interesting.
Yeah.
Like it's the moment that something happens that you decide to change your life.
But his wasn't like, it was just general. Like it wasn't like I woke up in a gutter. It was like I was fighting with my girlfriend a lot.
Yeah, his energy though, if I watched it enough times, 3 times, to where Lala says, "What made you want to get sober? You don't have to tell me." And he goes, "What do you mean I don't have to tell you? I'll tell you in confidence, but don't tell anybody else. But there's not much to tell." It's like, it was like
he's like at a 10.
And then he offers a lot of details. I tried to write them down just to like parse it. He was like, there was the Tom and Raquel stuff, and there was obviously alcohol flowing, and then I was also getting drunk, and there were some comments in there, and then sort of on Instagram and my reaction to showing emotion, and then Allie took 2 nights away from me and took the cats. I was like, whoa, what happened?
Yeah, I feel like he was just like getting fucked up during Sandoval and replying to like a million comments a night, and he was super hurt what had happened, and Allie was getting pissed off that he cared so much about his ex-fiance, and he was like, you know, just so engaged with it, and she was like, "You need to fucking chill." And I mean, I gotta say, bringing cats to a second location is a bold move.
I was gonna ask you that. It
like,
must have been,
you like never do that.
right? So it makes sense, this rock bottom moment, if it involved Allie leaving him for 2 days.
Right.
And he said that his decision to get sober is because he never wanted another moment like that once he realized that how much he loves Allie. So it's very similar to the reason why he stopped drinking for Raquel. He says it's for him.
Right.
But in reality, it's like your drinking caused your significant other who you love to leave you for a period of time, or threaten to leave you.
Yeah.
And you stopped drinking. Yep.
Yeah, he says that he didn't want to wake up an alcoholic 40-year-old who loses everything, which was
fired.
a clear dig.
He says, you know, it's the height of Sandoval or whatever, and he was replying to comments, but I don't recall James really, besides the reunion, when he was like the most fired up, him and Lala were the most fired up. His performance, emotions during the Sandoval episode, I don't remember him really taking it too hard. I feel like once he let some time happen, then that's when he wanted to adopt that posture at the reunion of being sort of extremely critical of Tom Sandoval and call him a worm with a mustache and everything. But I didn't know that it affected him so much. And I don't know if we ever saw that besides at the reunion.
They played that clip last week of him being like, if you're going to go see Tom Sandoval, bring your tomatoes.
That was very measured.
Sure. But if like, I don't know, I do remember him being in the comments like day one, because I remember everyone was just that morning or afternoon sending like every single comment that would verify what had happened. And I remember like Ariana's brother replying to comments and James replying to comments. Like, so we cobbled together the fact that this had indeed happened.
Jeremy's comment was so offensive. Do you remember it?
No.
He was like, all these people ruining their lives for this shitty Bravo show. I was like, damn.
Wow. What's he up to?
I'm not sure. He goes to Jax's Studio City a lot. I've seen him like twice.
Wasn't he canceled?
Yeah, some might say that he should have been canceled for things he did.
Yeah. It involved Billy Lee, right?
Yeah, I always say, well, no. Billy Lee made it a storyline that she was offended that Stassi and Katie warned her about Jeremy because they thought Jeremy was a creepy person. But Billy Lee took that as, how awful of you both to warn me of this when I was really excited for a date. Something that no one would ever say to anyone,
Right.
but she just clearly wanted a storyline. So she tried to spin it on Stassi and Katie. But that's one of the, I've said this about Ariana, and I've said this to Ariana. One of the only indefensible things she's ever done in the history of the show is defend Jeremy after Stassi said that he was being creepy to her at the wedding.
Yeah.
And the way she treated Stassi was the absolute worst response you could ever have to someone who makes that claim. But that's like the one horrible thing she's ever done. So
Yeah. Okay, then we go to Schwartz's apartment. We get finally Joe in the mix.
Joe, I liked this. I mean,
I have to say, watching Schwartz, Joe, and Sandoval hang out, I was like, nightmare blunt rotation. Like,
Really?
get me out of here.
really? I was picturing you and I sitting on the floor getting our haircuts, passing the joint around.
I just don't know what her deal is. She kind of has Billy Lee energy in the sense that she's trying to be involved and it doesn't feel necessary.
No, there's two moments where she starts to talk and they what's it called when you they interrupt her and continue their conversation. She gets stifled twice because she's not. They know that they don't want to like hear from her at that moment. She doesn't know the right time to talk in these scenarios. But yeah, she's clipping his hair, cutting his hair in the middle of the floor, letting hair, cascade down. And then we see a bunch of sticky notes on the mirror. And I just paused for a second. It said, "Dear Buck, I love you so much. Thank you for everything. I will miss you. Love, Dukes." And I was like, are those messages from Joe to Schwartz?
I don't know.
I mean, did you think they might be?
I assume they were, somehow involved. And he had a really hard time in his confessional explaining their relationship. He was like glitching out. He was like, Joe is a human being that,
Well, a human being. First of all, he gets to human being. He says it like 3 times.
Yeah.
Joe is the light of my life.
he was like, she was never living with me, but she stayed with me sporadically. We did have a whirlwind romance. We're buds now. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I'm as confused as before.
Right. Yeah. So I wanted to say that I find Schwartz to be like endearing. You and I have talked about it. It's like we're kind of like we're back with Schwartz on his journey. We know he did things wrong, but he's handling himself well for the most part, But this is something where I'm like, wait, I don't understand what you're saying at all. And if you act like this in life to everyone around you, but we don't see it very often, this was very annoying.
Yeah.
Just say what happened. Like, for Joe's benefit, for the world's benefit, you guys had sex and you continue to have sex, but you're not in a relationship and she's fine with that.
Right.
That's what he was saying, but he was using the most obtuse language where he could barely get it out.
Right.
He had to say she's a human being.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I think we should just clarify, because if no one else will, last summer, he's always been attracted to Joe. She was Kristen's friend. I don't know if he's always attracted to her, but he was obviously attracted to her enough to like start a relationship with her. She's been Kristen's friend. Kristen wrote her off as a friend when she found out that she was starting to see Schwartz or hook up with Schwartz. She was living with him or would stay with him for different periods last summer, and now she still does, right?
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what he's trying to say, but he's trying to avoid any negative feedback from the world by how he lied to us last year, that season, by saying that they have never hooked up. He lied to Sheena and he lied to us. And then he doesn't want Katie to use that against Joe and create a negative campaign towards Joe again.
I'm sure that will happen.
Right.
Then Sandoval walks in. He has a diet squirt in tow.
Did a part of you think that Katie was going to walk in?
Maybe, because she's the only one that has been visiting so
Gordo,
far.
Butters.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Oh my God. And so then they're talking about Tahoe, and Sandoval gets indignant again. He's like, Schwartz is like, maybe you should just chill and be cool with everyone. We can be in the same place. It'll be all right. And you can apologize. And Sandoval's like, I'm so sorry that you made so much money off my back. He's like, they showed the nation how to react and how to treat us. The world followed their lead.
And then Schwartz, well, first of all, Schwartz and Joe are laughing when he says, I'm sorry for making you so much money and sorry for making you so much content for your podcast. But then after that, Schwartz goes, that is exactly not the energy I want you to bring to Lake Tahoe.
You're concerning me.
And the fact that Tom Sandoval cannot help himself from still being petulant about this whole thing is shocking.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. He talked about that in the piece, the New York Times thing of everyone has made so much money off of this and he can't find a way in.
Yeah. And he's like, I can only be sponsored by mediocre brands or something, he says.
He said that he was supposed to do a stint at Chippendales in Vegas, but the negotiations
and then
floundered.
And then I think his manager said no one wants to be associated with a cheater, right?
I mean, don't you think that so many people would go to that?
To see Sandoval. Well, I don't know. We already felt bad when we went to Sandoval's show.
But Vegas, as a gag.
Wait, what was he going to be?
Chippendales.
He was going to be a Chippendales dancer, and
it was a special residency.
Oh, okay. Okay, let me imagine let me be in that mindset.
Bachelorette weekends.
Tom Sandoval comes out. They play the Vanderpump Rules theme song. What does the Chippendale dancers do? They dance like Magic Mike, right?
Yeah.
Magic Mike is spawned from that.
Yes.
Okay. I don't think he should have done that. I think it would strike people as the same as him including Schwartz's mom and Raquel in his lyrics in his band.
I mean, what's the difference between him playing a rock show and being a Chippendale?
There's no difference, but I think that it would be embracing, it would be exploiting his villainy to capitalize on it instead of offering complete contrition and start to create a new avenue that is not spawned from the evil thing you did. So this, in my opinion, this is.
You're saying because it's salacious?
No, I think that they would only want him as a Chippendales dancer because he's this reviled figure.
Sure, but that's true of any opportunity that he could ever get.
Yeah, I guess I don't think any opportunity he should exploit right now will get the proper deference until the world is back on his side. So what he does in the meantime to make money matters. And I'm not saying that Chippendales dancer is bad. I just think that I don't think it would help his case at all besides making money. Yeah. But you're saying why does he, I guess, he only needs to make money. So, I mean, the easy answer is fine, I guess.
My answer is that I want to see that show.
What, in your mind, what do you imagine?
I don't know. I feel like he loves dancing. He said he was bummed out that it didn't happen because he's in the best shape of his life off of World's Toughest Test.
Right.
He would love the fashion. I feel like he would get so into it. I don't see why not.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. I guess I haven't thought about it, and I don't have an articulate take on it. But I think that it still would convey the negative energy that he's harboring, and would not get people back to his side. And I don't think he will get people back on his side, and will not be able to make money until he has reconciled what he did, and he's just not in the state to do that.
Yeah, I just feel like the tide has turned and people think he's a loser, and that there's almost nothing he could do that wouldn't enforce that ideal.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm trying to think of like that will not help Tom Sandoval, and if I'm not thinking that, then yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
and do it.
I can't even think of a single thing that would be like, what's like a self-aware thing that would be a great move for him?
BetterHelp.com. Better Health, some therapy website, some loss of love, something like, I don't know, anything that like accounted for his mental health, like midlife crisis shit. I mean, anything that like reconciled what he has been through with what he used to have a new outlook on life would be a good brand for him to associate with.
Yeah.
Chippendales to me strikes me as if he like did a condom ad and said, I use condoms when I make sure to use a condom when you're cheating on your wife. You know what I mean? No one is going to, but if we want him to still be not move forward in a way, then yes, he can be a Chippendales dancer. I don't mind.
I don't think that doing a Chippendales dance reinforces the idea that you are immoral.
I'm not saying immoral. Don't say condom. Imagine any brand that says with a wink and a nod and a twirling of the mustache, make sure to trim your mustache with using a razor because you don't want to look like an ultimate villain. It's like anything that's like tongue in cheek. I'm not saying I'm not saying anything about
Riley
Chippendales.
stands against I love sex work
Magic
community.
Mike is what? No, Magic Mike is one of my favorite movies of all time. I would love a Chippendales. I'm not saying Chippendales
No, I just
dancing.
think I'm like, because then on the other token, if you're saying he does better help or whatever, that's so like serious. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to brainstorm what's like the good, if a really good PR person, he had access to them, what would they have him do? You know what I mean? Like get him on like SNL or something, like as like a funny little cameo, like in the monologue or something. I
guess.
Like what's something that you'd be like, wow, that was actually a funny move.
I feel like I dug myself in a hole. I am not saying Chippendales is anything. It doesn't have a negative connotation. I'm just saying that I don't think that would be received positively by the community that Tom Sandoval potentially wants to win back during this time. There's
right, but I'm saying what would?
Well, I said you don't think a Better Help ad where he said, I had a midlife crisis and I hurt the one person that I love the most. No, not many people know my story, but I hurt the person I love, and I've been actively trying to find out where this hole in my life exists or whatever.
I feel like everyone would be like, wow, BetterHelp, fuck you.
Right,
How dare you?
Yeah, I imagine them coming after BetterHelp. Like imagine.
I've heard it's a bad service, but anyways.
Okay, God damn. I cannot win. Imagine some brand that focused on mental health or whatever
I know, but I'm like, do we want him, like, that feels, I feel like I'm thinking of like what's something like lighthearted that people would get behind.
He did Masked Singer. I mean, like he did Masked Singer. He did.
Yeah, but that's so
Masked Singer
lame.
is the equivalent of going to Chippendales. It is the exact same thing.
So.
And it's the exact same thing, and it just doesn't.
Except the singing is like the thing that people make fun of him for the most.
Right. I don't know, and we don't really. I mean, you're right. If he was on, like. I mean, I know this just because I watch this Bill Clinton documentary all the time, but Bill Clinton gave a really long speech at the DNC and everybody was booing him because it was like 20 minutes long. And then he went on Johnny Carson and he made a joke to deflate it. He's like, I'm going to keep this short, Johnny Carson. And Johnny goes, lovely, Bill Clinton. And then he fully redeemed himself. It's like,
remember when he played sax on Arsenio?
Of course I remember that.
Sandoval should do something like that.
That was Masked Singer, I think.
Yeah. I want someone, that's the piece I need. I want the best PR person in Hollywood to say their like 5-pronged strategy of what they would have him do. Because I'm very curious. It's almost an impossible, conundrum.
To me, it's not that hard. It's
BetterHelp.
No, you said that's a horrible brand. To me, Sheena said this. Everyone said this. Lisa's saying this. Schwartz said this. If he would have come head down, Charlie Brown, into this season and not made one excuse for his behavior and cried, and like I already said this, and now I'm like reciting my worst take in history. No. There's ways that he could have moved past this. He is doubling down in every single scene.
I agree. Like his behavior is first. Like that's the first step is like your behavior, how you come across on the show and how you apologize or whatever. But I'm talking about like the public plan.
I have the public plan.
What is it?
It's everything I've said. He should have gone into this season creating storylines that were
I'm
legitimate.
saying outside of the show.
This is the avenue for him to get redemption. This is his only
I'm just
avenue.
saying if he's going to have an alternate path to Ariana.
Everything he did was wrong. You don't go on Howie Mandel. You go
Yes,
on Turtle
exactly.
Time. Everything he did was wrong. He should have gone on Turtle Time. He should have known that was the objective place where he could have thoughtful questions asked and he could have rehabilitated. He should not have gone on Nick Viall, someone who is talking shit about him and calling him a loser right before he gets there, and then hates him actively throughout the interview and wants him to look bad for clicks. He has... Every single thing he has done is wrong.
Right.
And people will say, and I believe it, that Tom Sandoval has not come to the place where he thinks what he did was wrong. Because there's so much hate that he thinks is disproportionate to what his actions were, that he keeps lumping in the world's hate with how much hate he should actually get within his own peer group, and he can't get past it. He's like, why the hell am I the most hated man in America? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I could have done this better than him, and that's egotistical to say, but I could have plotted out how he could have been redeemed in society. Every single step he has made has been wrong.
Yeah. He's going to end up the way Kevin Spacey just has to release those YouTube videos.
Merry Christmas, Sandoval.
Let me be frank.
Merry Christmas, Vanderpump Rules fans. Remember me?
Like a self-produced YouTube channel.
I've had a little bit of trouble. No, I feel so out on a limb again, which is my least favorite place to be. I did not at all mean that he shouldn't do Chippendales because there's a negative
I agree.
connotation.
It would be seen as
I love Magic Mike and I love Chippendales dancing. I would go to a Chippendale show.
No, I agree. It would be seen as like pathetic.
And I didn't mean a condom ad. Like I meant any ad that plays on like a mustache.
No, I'm
even
fucking with you.
Okay, good. Okay, as long as you know that I'm not
but
making the
it
equivalent
all
of that.
depends on. That's the thing. It's like you can't change people's minds. Like with Erica, people that hate her were reporting that her tickets were $7. That's what would have happened with Sandoval.
We are changing minds about Erica.
Okay.
We are.
But you know what I mean? Like it's like Sandoval, if you like someone, you would have been like, how fun. Like if Joe Giudice or like Joe Gorga did Chippendales, I feel like a lot of people would think that was funny.
If he had just Joe Gorga, if he had just cheated on Melissa,
Well,
and
not that, but like I'm saying, like if you have goodwill, something like that is fun and funny. If you have bad will,
that's exactly my point. You just said exactly what I
I'm
meant.
saying, what could he do that people wouldn't just see, like outside of his behavior on the show? Is there any activation he could do that people wouldn't think was pathetic?
No, they would not think it was. They would think it was still pathetic if he did a blank mental health.
Like, what if he played at like Coachella? Would people be like, ugh?
Of course they would. Of course they would not like. I'm saying something. If he wants to, there's nothing he can do now because he has not shown the world that he has actually changed. And I said why that is earlier, 2 minutes ago.
Yeah.
But there is a million different things he could have done right, and we could be having a very different conversation by episode 4 had he acted differently every step of the way post Sandoval.
I need Kris Jenner's take on what she would do if he were her son.
Okay, so you don't trust my take. I would want to interview Kris Jenner. That would be great.
Yeah.
Well, we got a little bit of a tangent, right? But it's important to talk about, right?
I think so.
Okay,
We get a quick, we go to the West Side.
Yeah.
James and Allie are going to go out with Brock and Sheena. Sheena doesn't trust Tori to babysit still.
Yeah, this was the most embarrassing moment of the episode. It was Tori taking a needle when she's sitting down with Brock and Summer, and she goes something like, "Are you ready for your Ozempic shot? Or have you been taking Ozempic shots?" And Brock goes, "Kind of a bad conversation to have around my kid." And then Tori laughs really loud at
it was one of those little like Fisher Price doctor bags that has like a vaccine needle, and I think she was like, "Do you do Ozempic or like whatever?"
Yeah, she said an Ozempic joke, and Brock legitimately
hated
said
it.
And you're right. Tori is
what
not
did they
ready.
even pay her for? Why doesn't she just have her sister babysit then?
There's a cynical take, which is that Tori is in the wings as a friend
They
of.
just want to introduce her.
She's an actor / performer. She wants to be on the show. I think Sheena said you would be great to potentially come on the show. We know that she's going to be the person that both Schwartz and Katie kiss at some point.
Yeah.
And so I think it's this, you can see that this is not a natural storyline because Sheena does not trust this person who she's bringing into her home to watch her daughter.
Right.
When, like, I feel like Courtney came after they were supposed to be out the door or something, and Sheena would have preferred if it just looked like Tori had been left as the babysitter, but then she had to explain, because the producers were still there, that Courtney needs to also help.
Yeah, and I mean, Summer Moon is how old at this point? I feel like she can like make herself a sandwich and tuck herself into bed. Like, she's like, bye guys, see you tomorrow.
Yeah, that was sweet. And Sheena was like, no, we're coming back tonight.
She's like, you usually don't.
Is she 3? 3? Or
I think, yeah,
younger?
was she a COVID
Yeah,
baby?
I think she was
or?
a COVID baby.
But yeah, they go out with James and Allie. They kind of claim it's the first time that they've been out without her mom watching Summer Moon. And then Sheena brings up the talk she had with Lisa. They show that Lisa had FaceTimed James and said that she wanted to talk to him, and Sheena's like, yeah, it's probably the same thing, like, prepare yourself, like, that's what it is.
Yep.
And they basically talk about the idea that they're going to have to see Sandoval moving forward, and if they go to Tahoe. And Allie's like, you know, like, I don't personally have any beef with him, he's always been nice to me, but, and she's like, they were all talking about that they're afraid that when they see him in person, they're going to feel bad for him and be nice to him and then just fall back into being friends or whatever.
Right.
And they all are kind of like, if it is so to be, so it is. Or whatever. Like, they're kind of like, whatever.
It really is that. Like, they're all sort of talking how you and I talk about, like, Sandoval scenes where they're like, we're still Team Ariana, you know? And, like, we absolutely defend her. And, like, there's a difference between on the right side and the wrong side. And we are definitively saying that what Sandoval did is wrong. But also, how are we going to be in a situation where we're literally around him? And how do you treat someone that you're, like, trying to ostracize, but you still have to, like, reckon with?
Right. Yeah, I feel like James... yeah, they're all kind of like, that's not my, they're like, we're on the show and I'll do what is asked of me. And
James
I'm not
says,
going to
I'm
worry
not
about
worried.
it too much.
He goes, I'm not worried. He goes, that's Schwartz's friend. If Schwartz wants to bring his friend and if we happen to mesh in the same scenes, I don't give a shit. It's like, he has a sort of healthy relationship to seeing Sandoval again.
Yeah. So that was interesting. And then we go back to Vanderpump Dogs, which really employs the idea that the first time around, they just wanted to not throw you off the scent, like be like, this is just where we meet these days.
Right. When I first saw it, I go, why the hell is Lisa having all of her scenes at Vanderpump Dogs?
Yeah.
Again, but you're right. It was to establish that the Vanderpump Dogs, it didn't come out of nowhere.
Right. So you weren't like, oh, is this what I think?
Yeah.
So you think that they're probably going to talk about Sandoval being suicidal, but it turns out...
Yeah. First, I noticed this on my third rewatch. Lisa goes to a director of marketing. She goes, are you sure it's him? Like, confirming one last time before she tells James that this is absolutely Graham Cracker.
Yeah. And she's like, I know you've been worried about Graham. And he's like, yeah. And they, like, do a flashback to their conversation. And... he comes down the stairs immediately.
Right.
And she goes, James, he's been rescued. And he's like, what? And he's like giving him kisses, like, you know, can't believe it. He's crying. I gotta say, it brought a tear to my eye.
Wow.
It was sweet. I do think James loves him a lot. He said Graham, now hippie, has the same wiggle that he's had since he was a baby. And Lisa explains that he was with a foster for a couple months. He bit a few people and that he was going to be taken to a shelter, and they basically reached out. And I'm like, we've heard this story from Rachel like 5 times.
Right.
And it sounds like from her end, which I kind of believe because she's stuck to her story. And I don't think she was going to allow him to be like at risk of being euthanized.
No.
That from her POV, he was always with the like California Doodle Rescue, like sanctioned by like a, you know, he was never like at like the pound.
Yeah. Lisa is not, which, you know, I guess to make it more, you know, high level, she's saying the basic facts, but we know, I think, what really happened here. It's been stated a lot by Rachel that, graham cracker was recommended to be put down by a vet after biting,
She
5
said
people
that
in a row.
the doctor who gave her mom stitches recommended that, which I'm like, a people doctor can't recommend that you euthanize a dog.
I think she clarified and at a certain
did.
point and said a vet recommended it. They gave up on Graham. She wasn't able to leave the mental health facility and deal with the Graham situation. So she delegated to her mom to make that decision. It went to the California Rescue. The California Rescue tried to give it to foster parents. It bit the living shit out of the
Like
people.
5 different people.
It bit the trainer. And then someone at California Doodle Rescue looked up its microchip, saw that it belonged to Rachel Leviss,
Yeah.
and knowing the show and the ins and outs of Sandoval, called Lisa at
Yeah.
Vanderpump Dogs to say, hey, there's a dog that's tangentially related to you and
Yeah.
your show. Do you want it back? And Lisa said, why, yes, I would. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Part of my lack of empathy in this scene, although I loved it, and I think James's reaction is one of the most actually shocked reactions I've seen in Vanderpump Rules history in forever. He
Yeah.
was stunned to tears
Yeah.
and silence and overwhelmed by his love of Graham, which I thought was beautiful. But I almost thought there was so many questions that James would have in this moment that Lisa
Right.
was not properly articulating to him. And also, I think, although this is very altruistic, that is a huge emotional burden that she just put on James at a spur of the moment.
He just walked out of the place with a dog headed back to his house where there are cats. You can't do that.
That
I'd be
too.
like, can you give me like 2 days at least? I'm not walking out of here with his ass.
That as well. But also the way the scene is cut, I'm sure James probably wanted to sit down for half an hour and ask 100 questions. She made him live with this decision in the moment and have that reaction on camera, which that's why I'm like, the reality of this was almost too shocking, where I needed James to sit down for a second and talk to her about this, because
Yeah.
it was like, wow, great. How did this happen? Okay, well, I love it. Thank you so much, Lisa. This is great. I was overwhelmed by the emotional burden that this placed on James at that moment, that he has to walk away.
He was
with
freaking out.
Graham.
He was like, what the fuck? I thought we were going to talk about Tom.
Yeah, and like, this is a beautiful gesture, and I get why Lisa thought it would play
Lisa
well.
was so happy.
Yeah, I know. I know, but there is a lot of things to factor in. I wonder if Allie at all would be questioning this handoff.
Yeah.
Like-
No, it's insane. And I still am afraid he's going to eat the cats.
Well,
And I'm not ready for all the footage of him like lunging at them that we're about to see.
which you saw,
Yes.
right?
And like Banks's tail is so poofed. I feel so bad for him. He's like, what the hell is this?
They show Mr. Banks, and Allie goes, Mr. Banks, wait, it's okay. And then you see James holding back Graham Cracker.
It's been revealed that he like brought like 5 people to the hospital.
I'm just saying, okay, I feel like I am being devil's advocate a lot this episode, and I think it's, I'm being negative in some ways, but I'm trying to be positive in other ways. But I'm just saying this scene's emotional touchingness was undercut by a lot of the realities that I know are present here. First of all, this is a tragic story for Rachel. No one cares.
Yeah.
But it's a tragic story how we got to this point. And
Yeah.
it's not just Graham walking down the stairs.
Yeah.
Guess who I found on the street?
Yeah.
Graham Cracker. Oh,
Yeah.
well, I'll take him,
Yeah.
obviously. I love this dog.
Yeah.
That is a fairy tale presentation
Yeah.
that we witnessed. There's a lot of underlying shit here that's going on, and I think even though James has clearly said this is the most beautiful moment of his life, I love this so much, there's some nefarious motives that Lisa had in doing this like this
Sure.
to give James a dog, and no one wants to say that, but I'll just say it.
I still am a little confused, despite Rachel's clarity on the situation, exactly how it got so out of hand that it was just completely out of her control completely. I know that she was like away and like steps needed to be taken and she decided she needed to stay where she was or whatever. But like it reiterates to me that I think almost no one on earth takes pet ownership
No.
even remotely as seriously as they should.
You and I have covered this over the year, probably more than anyone else in the podcast world. I'll just give us that credit. I know every aspect of how it led to that.
Yeah.
Ariana, before she would have hated to be on Rachel's side in anything, said on Call Her Daddy that Graham was a horrible dog.
Yeah.
That bit everyone in its path.
Yeah.
Was horrible.
She said that again on the after show. She was like, around like toys and food, he was extremely aggressive.
Yes.
And that she was like
So
kind of scared of
there
him.
is in no world do I doubt that Graham bites people. The thing you can take umbrage with is if Rachel was accurate in saying that James's behavioral issues were what led to Graham's behavioral issues, and he is the absolute last person she would ever want to watch him because she did not think he cares or would be a good dog parent to
Right.
Graham. That's up for debate. That depends on how you view the situation.
Yeah, I need more details on that end. I don't know why she's so afraid to tell us why he would be a horrific dog owner when I think he was not well looked after, it sounds like, under her tutelage as well.
Yeah, you're right. It's very complicated, and this scene like fostered more questions for me than it did just, I guess, and that's sort of a detriment of knowing every aspect of everything. Like I could have been back in the day, watching this 4 years ago before we were so entrenched in Vanderpump Rules knowledge and just been like, that's interesting. I don't even need to think about that for 1 second, how that happened.
Yeah, we know so much. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I'm worried about it. And
You're worried.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I
you
guess
had beautiful joy when like James.
No, I mean, it was a nice moment. I let myself enjoy the moment, but I'm worried about the future and watching him get integrated with the cats. Although I assume that if something horrible happened, we would have heard about it already in real life.
Is that the case?
I mean, I guess we should keep eyes on Allie's Instagram for cat pics.
I just thought it was interesting that exactly what you feared for months when you heard this original story, you're like, how is Mr. Banks doing? She has 2 cats, right?
They always say that, but they never show the other one.
Maybe the other one hides.
Yeah, I feel like maybe they did show him one time. But
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, so it sounds like exactly what you were worried about is going to happen. They show it clearly in like 3 different scenes.
Yeah, and in the after show, I like that Tom doubled down because now he hates Rachel. He was like, not a good look that the dog ended up in the shelter.
He goes, yeah, I heard she sent it to the pound. Not a good look at all. It's like he hates Rachel now that she left him in the lurch after the mental health facility.
But James did say that his little brother pet sits for them and that he loves dogs and cats equally and that he feels very good about the situation they have.
I picture just James in a meadow with butterflies all around him and cats and dogs just licking him and frolicking with him.
Yeah, and he says that I don't know how much he was exaggerating, but he says that he takes Graham to the vet like monthly just because.
Yeah, expensive.
I mean, I guess YOLO.
I mean, yeah, if you've got the money, take it.
I used to have to take my cat to the vet monthly, but it was not for no reason.
Right.
And it was like that Tiger King meme. I will never financially recover from this.
That's a Tiger King meme?
Yeah.
I will never financially recover from what had Tiger King done.
It was like after someone got like eaten or shot or something, and he was like, God damn it, this place is a shit show. I'm never going to financially recover from this.
Wow, I never knew that was what that meme was from.
Yeah.
Did we cover the after show, or were there any other moments
we mostly did,
like we talked
as
about?
we went?
Yeah, that was kind of fun to just weave it in, right?
Yeah. But yeah, again, recommend that to everyone. It's fun to see.
Oh, everyone, you have to watch it. They are more like it was filmed like a month ago, so you get to a completely different perspective on all of these events. And like there was a fight that happened between Lala and James, and I was like, whoa, I haven't seen that fight energy in a while. That was like great to watch.
I know. What did she say? Like, suck my dick, James, or something?
Yeah.
And he was like, that's not very nice.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so I thought this was a good episode, right?
Of our show or of Vanderpump?
No, definitely not our show. Vanderpump Rules. Was this a good episode?
I was entertained.
Me too. I think I was more entertained once I thought about the alternate reality that was happening behind the scenes with the Lisa scene, like we talked about, the silver bullet, that you mentioned, and also what was going on, behind this James situation with Graham, and then also thinking about the Sheena complicated dynamic in this really hard time she's going to have navigating between her two friends.
It's true.
So
Tortured.
So I did this episode. There was a lot to think about. So
yeah.
I like that.
Great.
Cool. Well, I think what? Oh, huh. Well, we have about I don't know. Maybe I wanted to ask you just about Beverly Hills because I know you caught up.
Do you think I could do a certified if we're going to talk about Beverly Hills?
Of course, we're gonna let's take 2 pisses independently, and then let's maybe just 5 to 10 minutes just on the state of Beverly Hills, so we don't completely leave it in the lurch. Because we're going to talk about the finale for sure, I think. But I just want to talk about what led to the finale, if we could. Okay, certified turtle piss. We're back. Okay, just 5 to maybe 7 to possibly 10 minutes about the state of Beverly Hills. And I know we fell off on talking about it. There's been major reasons for that in terms of what you and I have been going through. Yeah. But also, I don't feel that bad because I don't think Beverly Hills really warrants a lot of commentary.
Under the circumstances, it wasn't compelling enough to push it. I think that the finale looks promising because Kyle and Mauricio are finally going to talk about what's going on. Yeah. And I also sent you a clip, I don't know if you saw already, on Mauricio's show that I always forget exists, selling, what is it called?
Buying Beverly Hills.
Buying Beverly Hills, not to be confused with Selling Sunset.
Right.
He goes like full hog talking about their separation.
Yeah, he went full hog. He, I think he should be fired from Bravo. For doing that? Yeah. That show is about a real estate company where it's about him buying a bunch of shit with the agency and hiring his daughters to work with him. It shouldn't be about his personal life. It shouldn't have been. By
that merit, should Kyle be fired for not talking about it?
No, she gets to determine how her life is portrayed up until the point where you can't fake it anymore. Yeah. But I'm just saying he is on a rival network trying to preemptively have a scene where he gets the separation scene on his show that he's been a part of the Bravo universe for 20 years or 15 years, and he gave them that, and it's going to come out like before.
Don't you think they probably pitched that show to Bravo first?
Buying Beverly Hills? Mm-hmm. Possibly.
I mean, he would have, I think, cameos on a $1 million listing because the agency had agents on that show, but he was never fully on it. But I don't know. I'm like we've talked about before, it's like if you don't lock down the talent, then you're going to lose them.
He was locked down. He was locked down, throw away the key.
What do you mean?
On Bravo.
Well, obviously not. He is a spinoff.
I think that... I guess I'm just being, hyperbolic. I just think that he is creating content that the Bravo network would really care about, and he's using it on a rival network, which I don't know if it was pitched as, hey, you're going to get the Mauricio half of Beverly Hills because I get paid more on this show. I'm sure it wasn't pitched like that. I thought it was like a really shitty Netflix reality show that maybe Bravo didn't buy, but that doesn't mean that that Netflix should be actively like creating trailers and stuff to try to preempt getting scoops from Bravo, which is exactly what Netflix wants. They want all of Bravo's talent, and Mauricio it's not like Luann and Sonia and Ramona, where I do think they should ditch Bravo if they don't treat them right. They should go to Netflix. But Mauricio was in the fold, and his story is the Bravo story. And also, I think it's horrible the timing of this. They're trying to get ahead of the Beverly Hills reunion. Yeah,
it's wild how much times have changed in that I am not watching Mauricio's show because there's a time in which I would have watched every single thing that had anything to do with any of them.
Well, if it's at all like Selling Sunset, I know why you're not watching it, because that's one of the worst shows of all time. Yeah. But I forget what I was going to say about buying Beverly Hills and Mauricio. God, I had a point about not that he should be fired from Bravo. I think I have to just.
Well, I'm curious about what conversation him and Kyle had about him. Obviously, I assume, knew that he was going to have a sit down scene with their daughters. Yeah. So I assume that she okayed it.
Yeah, what I was going to say is actually I think that they're divorcing because of this.
That's their shows. I feel like her different show deals keep ruining all of her relationships.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
American Woman.
Yeah, it is a big deal though, right? I mean, it is a big deal that Mauricio started a show, an arrival to Bravo. I mean, Kyle is like Bravo blood. Like she is like the face of Bravo in a way, like top 5 biggest figures that Bravo has ever produced, and he went to a rival network and is trying to undercut their story that they've been developing for 15 years on a show.
Are we sure that she doesn't produce that show? We should look it up.
We should.
She might be like in charge of it.
It's at some point in the last 2 or 3 years, Bravo, like someone fought to have the clause where talent can go to other networks, and once that was like scrubbed out of the contracts, every single figure is now doing Dancing with the Stars, Masked Singer, World's Toughest Test. Like that didn't happen. Like there wasn't all this like reality competition that was going on with Bravo stars.
Yeah, we should look into it because I feel like I could see Kyle being involved, because if their daughters are involved, I feel like she wants to be involved. You know, like she's like obsessed with her kids.
Yeah, I think that this could have been a real factor in why she started to resent Mauricio, but it's just not something they can talk about because it's a fourth wall break.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say, just before we lose all of our time, that I guess nothing really about the quality of the last few episodes has like risen to the occasion to talk about, or I don't feel bad about missing out on on talking about it, because the season has been really about where we're ultimately going to go, which is that Kyle doesn't want to talk about her relationship with Mauricio disintegrating, and we're finally going to get that in the finale and the reunion.
Yeah. I feel like we've basically just not talked about the Barcelona era. That's what we've missed.
Yeah.
Which all I would say came to a head during that Ashes ceremony. Where I feel like Sutton gave a heartfelt speech about letting go of her divorce and her marriage and her friend and all this. And then Erica used hers to be a little bit petty, which was kind of fun.
Oh, yeah, I liked it.
And then Crystal was like, I need to let go of my brother who's moving to Asia. And I was like, it's done for you.
Yeah. These ashes represent my brother. I mean, we could talk about the cast. One thing, obviously there's going to be a major cast shakeup after the season. I think it's a foregone conclusion.
Yeah.
My advice to them, which, if they're listening, is you have to do a sort of Roni season 5 situation where you keep the 4 most powerful people and you hire 3 newbies that are very engaging and charismatic and see who wins out. Because this
like
cannot...
Anna Marie.
Huh?
Like Anna Marie.
Like Anna Marie.
Or you already... Anne Marie?
It's Anna. It's Anna Marie.
Okay.
I've thought about it a lot. I just think that, unfortunately, this cast cannot sustain much more how it is. I know that they are actively casting. I've heard through the grapevine that they are reaching out to people now to cast people, obviously at least as Anna Marie's replacement. But this season was unfortunately low quality because something about the dynamics of this cast just don't work together.
I agree. It's just off.
It's off. I think
it's not like horrible.
Yeah.
But it's not great.
Yeah. I mean, Anna Marie and Crystal are obviously first off the island. That's sort of an easy decision to make. And then who you keep is, very important. I would say Kyle, Sutton, and Erica are definitively should stay. Or like that's ones I wouldn't have to think about. And then Dorit, who am I missing? Dorit, Garcelle, Crystal. It's time to think about them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I feel like Garcelle continues to be about her kids, which is boring.
Yeah. They really talk about scene partners that don't give what you want them to give. All of those scenes were not engaging.
I mean, I know that they gave Sutton the dating era this season, but I'm like, Garcelle dating era would be fun.
Yeah, it really would.
So maybe they can like kick that in next season, even like friend of, I don't know, but yeah. And then Kyle is like also just kind of off because she's going through something. It feels like she doesn't want to talk about a lot of stuff, and she also just seems kind of sad, which I know why, but like it's, you know, low energy.
Yeah, but for me, Kyle and Sutton's dynamic could sustain the show going forward, because there is a unique relationship there where they're friends, but Kyle is very disrespectful to Sutton and really like has this like weird grievance against Sutton, and Sutton gives it back to Kyle, but Kyle hates Sutton for some reason, like really hates her, and I don't know why. I only can think that it's because Sutton has rose in popularity on the cast to almost rival her, and she's almost potentially jealous.
Do you think it's because she almost burned her house down?
Yeah, I think. Well, yeah, could be. I have to ask you before we like sign off. What do you think? Why the hell is Kathy Hilton coming out of the trailer onto the reunion?
Yeah. What if they bring back all three Richards sisters? They're the only ones on the cast. They each hold a diamond. It's 1, 2, 3.
I mean, that would be amazing. Kim deserves to be more there. I mean, Kim was in multiple scenes.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I mean, I'm
so scared of Kathy now.
I know. Well, Sutton starts physically shaking in the trailer when Kathy comes out into the reunion. Did you see that? No, she's actively shaking. They go, "Can we get a medic?" Sutton is so scared when Kathy walks into the reunion that she starts to uncontrollably shake.
What does she know?
I'm worried. I think it's because she staked her claim on the Kathy side, and then now that Kathy and Kyle are reconciled, she's on the outs, and so when Kathy comes, obviously, I would be scared. If Kathy came into your home right now, I would start uncontrollably
Kicks
shaking.
the door in.
Can you imagine? Saying,
calls you a slur.
Yeah, he calls us a slur and says, "What the hell have you been saying to me about on Turtle Time?" I'm not a huge Kathy fan, so that was kind of shocking to me. People are like, "Oh my God, it's so cool." She's
it was fun while it lasted until you like really thought about it, but like, you know, the hunky dory era
Who is hunky dory?
Was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. That was before I didn't realize that was kind of an act.
Yeah.
And she's actually secretly sort of devious.
Yeah. I gotta say, I've said it before, but everyone watch Paris in Love to get a wider breadth of the family dynamic.
Please do that. Okay, well, we're gonna say goodbye to everyone. I feel like this was one of my worst appearances on Turtle Time. I want to apologize retroactively for everything horrible I said. I don't even remember. I disparaged Chippendales. I defended Tom Sandoval.
Maybe we don't cut any clips of this episode so outsiders can't judge us.
I'm sure that there was something good that was said by me, hopefully. I know you said a lot of good things. You were being very good, and there was some thoughtful conversations that were had. But
yeah.
Right?
I think so.
Okay, good. All right. Well, and let me know, you can always tell me, Riley, I hate you now for what you said, and I'll apologize.
On demand.
I'll apologize to anyone. Okay. All right. We love you so much. This was our episode of Turtle Time. We'll be back next week.
Yeah.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye.
This one's for you.